This is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and
all things weird.
All things weird.
All things weird, dude.
Hell yeah. What's up, everybody? How are y'all on this wonderful Thursday?
Wonderful Thursday Thursday, dude.
Josh Casey, I totally agree with that. Andrew WK, well, I don't know if he needs to start paying us, but he should definitely come hang out so we can party hard together.
Yes, Party Hard has been a staple of this podcast for quite some time, but it is from that song. I mean, that's where the original joke came from, dude. That's the song, dude.
Yeah.
Party
when it's
hard,
time to party,
when it's time to party, dude. Shit.
Hell yeah.
While we're just drinking Franzia wine, like, that's it. Like, that's as hard as we party, dude.
Oh, man. All right, we'll see you in a little bit, Anthony. He's got to go walk the dog, man.
Oh, great timing, dude. Great timing.
Wait. Does that mean that you're doing yo-yo tricks right now, or like you have a literal dog that you gotta go walk?
Both.
Did us two have Thanksgiving together? Nah, dude.
No, we should have though.
We should have.
That's maybe next year, dude.
I did get to see Ben in person the other day, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember how awkward I was when I went to shake your hand.
Yeah.
Like, you went in for the high five, I went in for the fist bump or something. It was something like that.
Well, I tried to unzip your pants and you were like freaking out. You were like, that's weird, dude. And I was like, come on. You were like, no.
Well, you didn't tell me I was supposed to wear that shirt with the zippers where my nipples are. Tiny, it's like but it's just like it's a very small zipper because I have small nipples.
Tiny zippers.
Yeah, they're very tiny. You need like tweezers to unzip them. They're very... it's an Italian shirt. It's also made by Dan Flashes. It's a very intricate pattern. So yes. It's $500 a pop, dude.
Yeah, I know, Anthony. I saw the dog. I was just making a joke. You have a cute dog, dude. We should all meet up one day and have doggy play dates.
Oh, snap. Can I bring hot dogs? Yeah,
dude. We'll just do it one Sunday. We'll all fly to like a central part in the United States in the very middle.
with a little barbecue pit so we can also serve hot dogs.
That's right, dude. Or frozen chili bananas.
That's when you take a banana peel, you exit the middle banana out of the peel, and then you fill it with hot chili, and then you sew it back up, and then you sell it that as that.
That's right.
Pocket banana chili pockets.
Well, damn, dude. Tonight's gonna be a fun night, right?
It is gonna be a fun night, dude. We got an awesome guest. Before we introduce our guest, I kind of want to announcement for this weekend. We have a live podcast, like in person, in Taylor, Texas. If you're in the Taylor, Austin, Georgetown area, San Antonio, it depends on how much you want to drive. We're doing a live show like in person at the Black Sparrow in Taylor, Texas, dude. We have Terry Lovelace coming to hang out with us to tell his stories, and we're going to show photos, video. You might see some cool stuff that people haven't seen before. I don't know. You just have to come. I don't know.
But if you can't make it, you can also just watch it live.
We're also going to stream it live.
I know that you guys usually hop on and you catch a Big Willie on Saturdays, but during this time frame, we're doing a show. So
yeah, I invited William back a couple months ago, and he was like, "Yeah, totally." And he's got like 3 kids. Like, I didn't expect him to be able to do it, but
yeah,
it was like, "Hey, so I got this person coming up on the 4th." And I'm like, we're gonna be doing that thing that we've been working on for a while, dude. So I think he's gonna move his guest earlier in the day, or maybe to another week. So
that'd be cool. Make sure y'all catch that, because that'll be a cool one. Yeah, Big Willie's got the guests, dude.
Yeah, Nicole Sackage. He's really good at getting guests. Like, I don't know his secret. I don't know it.
Email,
what he
dude.
does.
I would guess email
Yeah, but I'm pretty good at email.
or messenger.
I think it's all Facebook Messenger, dude.
Uh,
It's like the Chili's of the internet. Like that's where business happens, man.
Travis, have we had this conversation before? I feel like maybe we have. Where do you live, dude? I feel like
Travis
we've
Green
had this. Yeah,
in the chat.
I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Travis Green also sounds like somebody I'd know, man. You sound like you're from Taylor, man.
You might be from Taylor,
Yeah,
but you might not be from Taylor.
but you might not be. I don't know. When was the last time it rained in your town?
But you might be.
But you might have.
Wes, yeah, Big Willie does use that sexy voice. He's like, all right,
All right, again, and back in the blue van. That was pretty good.
yeah, dude. I got wet. The humidity in the air like rose. Immediately.
No one can sound as sexy as Big Willie.
Nobody.
Nobody. If you try, it's just.
It's like it always reminds me of this old commercial, this old radio commercial that used to come on. And he would always be like, "Welcome back to 105.7 Smooth Jazz." And it's all like cool and shit. And then Barry White would come on. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's fucking smooth."
Sing about sex now. Hey.
Yeah, that guy was like, "This is smooth jazz," and he was right. This is so smooth right now. Hell yeah.
That was a perfect impression, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Well, hell yeah, dude. Well, hey, let's introduce our guest.
Party.
Joe Molloy. Guys, if you haven't heard of Joe Molloy, he's kind of a big deal. I started listening to him on TikTok about a year ago, or maybe like 6 months ago. And I just vibed with what he was saying, man. He's got a lot of really awesome ideas. He reads books, so he knows a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, he's just all around cool guy. So I'm stoked to have him on. Everybody, say what's up to Joe Molloy, dude. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
First of all, I want to point out my awesome patterned shirt.
Oh, snap.
All right, my very expensive, awesome patterned shirt
From Dan Flashes, dude.
from Dan Flashes. Maybe allegedly, I can't say for sure.
Was it $150 out the door?
I'm not gonna say what rack and Dan Flashes they were. I can't put myself out there like that.
You don't want people to know your finances, dude.
Right. They're okay. We'll say that. I'm alive. I'm in an expensive city. How are you guys? Thanks for having me here. And
Dude,
thanks, that was very nice. I appreciate you saying that.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah,
TikTok's
dude.
been
I'm
like
so
a
stoked that
weird
you got back
outlet.
to me, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you guys reached out. Like I said, it's just been such a weird, fun outlet for me where it's just like I started it out with basically like I'm gonna talk about the out there stuff, and I don't really care because I don't know anybody on here. I don't know anything on here. I just was, and yeah, people seemed to really resonate with some of it. So
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how was that journey, dude? Like, you obviously started this thing to talk about stuff that you've been wanting to talk about. I mean, me and Joe
Sure.
can relate in that way. That's why we started this podcast, dude.
Right.
Like, it was just me and Joe talking about this stuff. So getting that outlet out there, what were like the couple of first topics? Because I know obviously your
Sure.
name was Alien Interests. So like that.
Yeah,
that-
and I
that
appreciate
journey.
your guys' like little like intro into the show. It's like you started this. It's like and I share a lot of the same like mindset with it. There was just a lot of things that I was like interested in and open to that I thought were really weird, and I just wanted to explore them and talk about them. But they all seemed to, at least for me, to center around this idea that just like I've never believed that we're alone here. So the first like big sort of and this like went on for years. You're talking like when I was a kid, like young kid, the first time I saw the Alien the Alien Workshop skateboard logo, right? I was probably like second grade, right? You guys remember that? It was just like the big gray head. And I saw that and I was just like, that's real. Okay, we moving on. We're just like, that was it.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, since looking at that, it's like, all right, so odds are I was abducted as a kid. We'll come back to that another time. because there's just like a history. There's a bunch of researchers. I'm sure you guys are familiar with some of them, but there's just this thread of if you're drawn to this kind of stuff and your first reaction when seeing this was like, oh, of course, then you were like probably a good candidate to go get some regressive, memory loss therapy or whatever and like put together. I've never done
Yeah.
that because not about, well, hold on, I've had
Same.
Yeah,
right.
dude.
Yeah. I was like, wait,
What
we'll open that box eventually, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But-
when we're like 50, right? Like we gotta wait.
Right.
Yeah.
I read through like when I have the money to deal with the therapy afterwards,
Right?
I'll open that box. Okay.
Dude, yes.
I get the spiritual side of it. The psychological side of it still is like a little whatever. So
Yeah.
I was always interested in aliens as a kid. And then that went through like college and I got really into some really weird stuff. There weren't outlets like, TikTok, or there weren't people like doing podcasts about aliens on YouTube at the time. There were like a handful of people, circa 2010 on YouTube talking about this kind of stuff and some real weird info. And so like I kind of dabbled and half did it. And, I practiced Reiki in there and did some other research and then started doing stand-up comedy because I resented the entire rest of the world. So comedy. And then it sort of like took a turn, the nature of this whole thing that we're kind of still inside and experiencing is that everybody faced that big mirror and it like took a turn for me that like this whole alien and ascension and spirituality stuff is like so much about practical, physical, grounded things. We're stuck in cycles because we, killed a culture and then tried to supplant a culture on top of it without ever acknowledging it. And it's like the same thing we're going through on the micro scale, or like that's the macro scale of us realizing like we're going to hit bumps in our adult development if we have trauma from childhood. We're going to hit bumps in our cultural development if we have a genocide that we created in the past that we're not properly acknowledging. Dude. So the micro and macro of this all is happening, and individuals are realizing the need to go back and do the shadow work and process this childhood trauma. And we're realizing collectively, like, holy shit, we buried children in unmarked graves by the thousands. What did we, and that's like a tip of the iceberg of like what we did to a culture that was maybe pretty enlightened when, 1,000 years ago, well before Western culture ever landed here. So that's how my TikTok started, is I got this whole realization of like, oh shit, it's not about aliens at all. It's about indigenous people. It's like, this is the connection to progressing forward that we're missing as a whole culture. It's not about forward, it's about backwards. It's a paradox, right? As the nature of the rest of it. If we want to move forward, we got to go back and really acknowledge what was happening in the past. So after, this was 6 months into quarantine, I had just gone through a breakup of like a polyamorous relationship with like these two favorite people at the time, this like wonderful little disastrous thing that was all this weird unpacking of all of our own individual traumas.
Yes.
And this weird contact experience that I had in college that like played out in my own physical reality. So 6 months into processing all of this, I have this realization of like, holy shit, yeah, it's got nothing to do with aliens. I'm trying to make contact again, doing the same thing I did 10 years ago in college, right before I had like a manic episode of like, which is basically, I was going through a spiritual awakening and had no guidance, right? So
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing now, trying to reach up to the stars. And then I'm just like, oh, it's not about that at all. So I left my apartment in Madison, Wisconsin on 11/11/2020 and drove to all of the sacred sites, it's like sacred indigenous sites I could, like across the sort of like top of the country to the Pacific Northwest, and then down the West Coast into Arizona. And then had this crazy experience, and I'm still dealing with like, I basically accidentally went on a vision quest and successfully had a vision, and now have been like, again, unguided because I'm an idiot to a certain degree. It's like been trying to make sense of all of this, and I'm basically doing it like one step in where it's like, I'm like talking to people about this, and they're like, yeah, I'm an expert at that. This is what you did, and you did it like really kind of irrational. It's like, cool, great, glad.
At least I know, right?
Yeah. So yeah. So
So
after this vision, I've been like making this comic book and trying to like unpack what I made, like what I saw essentially.
yeah, I mean,
Nice.
dude, that is like,
Yeah.
that's an epic, man. That is there's so much to unpack there, but I feel like the most important part is that you feel and you take notice of that and you acted upon it. You like, not a lot of people just say, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna go drive to this feeling that because it wasn't those sites that you were looking after. You were looking
Right.
for answers. It wasn't
Right.
the region. It wasn't the architecture. It was like, no, dude, I need answers for me. And we went out and did that.
Exactly.
So not a lot of
And-
people can do that. You know,
Well,
that's pretty awesome.
I appreciate that. A lot of that is just, and like, I want to encourage people to do that, because I really see, you know, we could be a couple of guys in a podcast, whatever. Like, there's a problem with like young like men, and I like hate to sound like this old like begrudging like, you know, conservative I'm not like any of those things, but like
You
come
said
back to-
polyamorous and indigenous people. I don't think you're that.
Right. Okay.
you-
Yes. Fair point. But there is this part where it's like, we're just kind of like not raising young men well to a certain degree, where it's like, we have to do things to realize how scary and dangerous the world is, and then like really integrate that and go like, holy shit, I like need to have things to believe in and causes to uphold and like reasons to like die for, because like the place is, it's weird out there. It's very, and it's just getting stranger right now. So I think there's a little bit of that, you know, collectively, we used to do this vision quest stuff. Young men especially used to go on these like, hey, you might die. And if you don't die, you're going to prove to, and this is like part of the point. It was like, I feel like I was looking for answers, especially like, you know, post this breakup, and then like on my micro scale, and then on the macro scale was like, what the fuck is going on in the world? Why did I kind of always feel like this was coming? And I told friends in November of 2019 that like, hey, something like 9/11 is going to happen at the end of February. I told like 24 people this. So like, people felt it coming. Right. So why did we feel it coming? Why did we, these were these questions that I had. So the thing that I got back was, how willing are you to find out the answers? And I went, well, I think I'll do anything at this point. And then it went, okay, drive to this place. And I went, oh, okay. and it's like, it's just this level of, we all have these like voices. We have to learn how to discern what's the voice of like our ego, and what's the voice of our, you know, genitals, and what's the voice of our like, you know, heart. And you know, charming little thing. But it's like,
I always have to listen to the voice of my wife.
Yeah, well, you know, a good woman will be very connected to the voice of your own heart, though. So it's yeah,
I
if
agree.
you're doing things right, that's a good voice to listen to.
She makes a damn good chicken fried steak. So,
Hey,
you
and
know?
if there isn't a way to heart, then through a gut. Yeah. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I just pursued this to try to get this, like these answers, and in like instead, I guess, in addition to maybe, was like all of the notions that I had about what reality was, and even as like what I thought I was like a practiced spiritual person, all of it just like broke. And it's been the last year like of like watching it all crumble around, and then like seeing people on TikTok and things like this and being like, oh yeah, I believed that 3 years ago. That person's gonna realize this, then that this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen. Oh wow, this is like a whole circle we're all on.
Yep.
And it's like this, it's a great thing to realize, but it's like,
Does it feel like sometimes that we're all in line for the same ride at the carnival?
100%. We're just in
Yeah.
different spots on the line. And then some of us have been to the carnival multiple times. And then some of us have been to other carnivals in other areas and have seen rides like this. And we just get that we're all at a carnival. And then literally on this planet, there's like half, from what I understand, with my own limited perspective, right? Whatever. That's the only time I'll use that. Okay. All right. In everything else, I'll just say really brashly and bluntly. About half the population, this is their first fucking time at the carnival. And then the rest of the population, varying degrees of, some of us like helped construct the concepts of carnivals. And then we're at one here on Earth. And then some of us are still just like fresh, brand new learning of like, wait a minute, I can learn how to play this. This is all a game. I can actually pick my own experience. And they're mind blown by that. Others are like struggling to, this is a big level of like what autism and this whole like neurodivergent spectrum is. It's like a lot of it is just like, these are beings with a consciousness that's so vast and intricate and particular and already realized. And you're putting them into this very limited, confined matrix machine. And they're going, everything bothers me here. I still want to be here, but everything here bothers me.
I'd like to make an analogy to put neurodivergent, because I feel like I'm a little something. I don't know what, but I think we all are at some varying degree. But it's like putting a carnival in a parking lot, right? It can be beautiful and it can transform a very limited amount of space into a whole different universe. Like when I was a kid, when me and Joe were a kid, I mean, we grew up in the same town.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, there's more to that story. It was like the first time we saw an alien, kind of. But I mean, so to somebody that we can't really put our finger on, you know, this neurodivergent, it's like, yeah, we don't see the parking lot. Maybe the carnival can be anywhere, and we can choose to have our own carnival here and there and any time of day, and time just, it's just not a thing really sometimes.
And sure, some of the carnies are meth heads, but
Sure,
you know,
man.
Yeah,
just hop
whatever.
on and enjoy the ride, you know?
My sister got really worried about my nephew, and when he was like, we're on inches, you know, it's just concerns, and I get it, but it was like he does this thing that I learned then is called like stimming, and it's basically it just like plays with his hands and like does shit, like blows things up in his hands and like makes fireworks and stuff, and it's just like that's all he's doing. He's making a little carnival in his hands and then just having fun playing, and it's just to squeeze some juice out of his brain in that moment. It's such it's really just a great practice that like most of us go through just bored. And he's just like, not going to be bored. Never going to let myself. Oh, not a bad way to go about it.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that. So
Is that milk you're drinking?
No, this is water and magnesium powder. It makes like a lemonade.
dude, I
Interesting.
totally thought that was milk, and I was. Have you?
I can see it actually. Yeah, it looks way more. I swear, there's like a lemon hint to it.
I love
this milk drink over here.
Yeah,
We just
one of my big spiritual practices is just unpasteurized cow milk all the time, straight to the dome. People
Straight from the udder.
Yeah, yep. I
Going
I
out
sneak
back.
onto a lot of farms.
I live in a
permission from the cows on a spiritual plane. It's
I learned this from Tom Green.
yeah, right. He's actually one of my yogis. Yeah, no.
I bought a 2-bedroom apartment. One's for the cow, one's for me.
Yeah, once you get it up the stairs, it's never coming down. It's up there.
Yeah, nobody would ever want to help you move.
No.
Couches are bad enough, but a cow? Jesus.
Oh, you just have to leave the cow.
Yeah, you'd have to change your name and move from state to state your entire life. You just,
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
well,
there's-
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
No. Very much opposed to that. Actually, I'm very much about. We have to as much as it sucks. We have to integrate into the world. It sucks, but it's what we have to do.
Yes. So, I don't know, Ben. Do you have a direction for this? I have a question, but I think it's going to take us down a path. So
Let's do
before
it.
we,
I've asked all the questions. You go.
okay, walk down this path. Okay, you were talking about
Yeah.
hey, would
Let
you
me make
get?
sure my chargers. What's up?
I was just saying. So you were talking about earlier, the more you got into this, you were thinking like aliens, and then
Oh, yeah.
you started uncovering, all you're reading all these books and discovering about like our past and like how all this is like linked to our past, and stuff like that, right? And then so
Very much
like, what is it that we're viewing? I guess my question would be, we all know that we've got a pretty rough history. But do we also believe that these things have been showing up way before that happened? And also, it wouldn't be just us, it's all over the world. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So
It's not.
I'm
just,
looking, yeah. So I'm looking for the connection of like, okay, so obviously we
Okay.
can't just like pinpoint this one point in history. It's pretty gnarly. We have to take it all in, and I'm sure you have an explanation for this. That's why I'm asking the question, because I want to know how far back does this go?
Okay. So, from what I understand, if you really want to look at like the largest macro scale of it that directly involves us humans, right?
Right.
So, because remember, all of this is fractals, right? We do this as above, so below thing. And I'm sure by now, either you guys, through the powers of experiential, medicines or own spiritual practice or whatever, have had some kind of experience of like this mirror effect where there's like multiple realities or some deja vu thing, or I can see the future or whatever. There's something weird going on with this whole thing, right?
Tasting colors.
Right. It's fractals, right?
Tasted blue ones.
It's all this mathematical fractal, and if as we zoom in, it's smaller and smaller and smaller, right? And like Tesla wrote about this and all this. When we really understand what's going on with the micro scale, we will look at the stars and go, oh, they can help us understand the world. Okay, gotcha. We're starting to do that. There is a pseudoscience that's also injected into that. Whatever. Okay. So, from what I understand, this goes back like, and I told you guys before we're doing it, we'll dive into as far as this as you in deep as you want to go. Goes back, from what I understand, about 250,000 years, right? And there was essentially some sort of manipulation to the human species, or what was the human species at that time, and it was either a direct manipulation or by chance, some sort of organic manipulation, right? Terrence McKenna talks about us finding psilocybin in mass and starting to like a whole subspecies of whatever the Homo species was at that time, using ceremonial psilocybin and growing their brain like 3 times over the course of like 20,000 years or whatever, what like a very short amount of time. Or there's theories about like it was a literal genetic manipulation from the gods, from aliens and things like this.
There's even a new one that has something to do with a virus that has something to do with it. Yes, sorry.
Right. Yeah. To me, it's all the same thing. It doesn't matter what it is. And essentially, there are a bunch of different answers for it that all lead to the same section of the river. Okay?
Yeah.
So all of these different timelines of reality, these life tracks of reality, right? flow from these different origin points of like, how did it start? It was genetic manipulation. How did it start? It was psilocybin. How did it start? It was this, it was this, it was this. And it all flows down the mountains, and then it gathers at certain places, right? And then those certain places gather at certain places, and then they split again, and then they all fold in, and then this whole thing is happening on this higher dimensional level. When I say this whole thing, I mean it's like the folding or the flowing and unfolding of timelines, life tracks. We can pin whatever about that, for later too. But they flow in and out and weave in and out of each other. So we happen to be at this huge cross section of it where you could look at it essentially like Grand Central Station, right? Where over the last few years, roughly 2012 to now, there's different sort of ranges from it. You could argue back as far as like the 60s and the 70s, we could see it approaching on the horizon, and people were already doing things about it. We're in the station. People have already launched from the station, whatever. So we're in this whole thing where a bunch of timelines have collected, right? But the nature of the timeline is, and this is, again, from my own discernment, what I look at is that something manipulated the human species and the human population on this planet in a way where they kind of felt superior, right? And kind of didn't give a shit about the consequences to that species, very much like how Western culture, colonials, right? Colonial culture came over, didn't give a shit about the culture that was already happening, right? So these people, they didn't give a shit about the planet that was already going on or how humans were organically evolving, whether or not we were using psilocybin or whatever. They just saw an opportunity, genetically manipulated for some purpose, whatever. Because then conspiracy theories travel out from there for different degrees, because this is a story that's been used for thousands of years to manipulate people, right? So this manipulation 250,000 years ago had a consequence that millions of years from now will stop this particular species evolution. Very similarly to how we in the Western world are now experiencing climate change and these kinds of things. And we're going, what is the real cause of this? We disconnected from nature. How did we disconnect from nature? We tried to build a culture on top of a land after we killed an indigenous species, or like an indigenous population that already had connection to the earth and was probably literally working with spirits from other dimensions, other planets, spirits from the planet, from the land itself, had a whole mythos, had a whole hierarchy, had a whole government, ways to communicate and trade with the Far East. Like a whole intelligent species was maybe in contact spiritually with Buddhist monks in Tibet. There's writings about the mass of like buffalo that they see from Tibet, right? There's all sorts of stuff like this. So it mirrors that manipulation that happened to the species blocked their evolution millions of years from now, just like our evolution is blocked by these things. Like we can't go on as this industrial society we know will destroy ourselves or whatever, right? We're seeing the consequences of it right now with like homelessness and greed and wealth, the disproportionate wealth and all this kind of stuff, right? So the reason we started getting years ago, as far back as like the 60s and 70s, more direct contact with all of these UFO species is because they realized that flaw. So they started to, just like we had some people genuinely realize, oh shit, colonialization fucked some things, and start writing papers and dissertations about it, a couple centuries ago. And then that's gained steam. And now it's like, that's the popular understanding, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that happened on the higher levels too, where they went, hey, we think these humans were actually in possession of like some really great qualities, and we kind of messed it up. And it turns out, yeah, there's a thing about humans that is like important, and you squashed it, and you need that to go forward.
Do you think that we obviously things aren't perfect now, but when we do look back at history, right? I mean, yeah, we're talking about we're talking like colonialism, people moving all around the world.
Yeah,
Everybody's moving around the world. It doesn't matter if we're talking Europeans coming to America or the Mongolians trying to take over the world or Xerxes or whoever you want to talk about, right? You do see that even though world is imperfect, and I'm 100% on board with that. And man, we should be doing so much better for where we are now, right?
so much better.
It is, and you know, there's a lot more like behind the scenes stuff going on now than there used to be. It does seem though like we are kind of learning in a sense, right? Because instead of taking over entire continents, you know, now they're starting to be, you know, these wars and stuff are fought in like states or you know, cities, or you know, they're on a smaller scale. They just have more of a I guess a visual or conscious impact because of the delivery of information and how easy it is to access it. Do you see like a little light at the end of the tunnel, that even though there's still a lot of messed up stuff going on, that it's getting smaller and smaller, it seems like?
Oh yeah.
Like we are learning, you know?
Yeah.
As imperfect as we are, we have to give ourselves credit for trying to do better in a sense and also learning.
So I want to try to wrap like multiple points of this big concept, because you said great things there. There's like an inherent paradox that I want to try to get across, because like what you're saying is like the chaos of the world over the last few years, essentially. But like if you even look at like the last 100 years, like we've had 2 world wars on scales of like what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
So like this has gotten like, even in the last 20 years, we've probably maybe not as much death, but as much like literally there's like Obama thousands of times was like, yep, do it. And it was just like a thing from 80,000 feet in the sky dropped a little glimmer of what is that? Oh, my family's dead. Like that's crazy.
Generations gone.
Doctors Without Borders are dead.
What insane stuff happening like that?
That's so bad.
So true. So in one level,
Nobel Peace Prize.
Never.
I just want to put that out.
Obscurity. Us three, obscurity forever. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. The world is wild. So it's in a level crazier and more chaotic than ever, right? But then we look at a simple fact, like I got electricity, we have the internet, we got audio between us, we can share ideas. We are people that without this technology would probably never have met unless at some weird alien convention in Santa Fe or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So the level of access and this kind of thing, we have air conditioners in homes, and King George like was sweaty most of the time, but he ruled countries, right?
Right.
So we gotta really try to wrap our head around all of these points and not just focus on like one of them, right? So the whole point being, wow, look at what consciousness developing does. That literally over a few hundred years, we've made what would be living like a king a couple hundred years ago look like shit.
Yep.
But what living like shit looks like now looks like a level of misery that is Dante's Inferno, like of proportion, right?
Right. Yeah.
So holy shit, do we need to be careful about our consciousness? And that's like what I think the huge message that we should be taking from all of the different opinions, the different diverge, how you can literally go get proof for your opinion especially when we talk about this, you know what, right? You can go get proof for your opinion, whether it's whatever, and about everything. You can go get facts for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna whatever. I don't even want to talk to you. Like, this is wild. What we really need to realize out of this is how great our consciousness really is and how it will prove whatever. So be real particular. If you're trapped in beliefs about the world is chaotic, there's gonna be you're gonna put yourself in situations that you don't want to be in.
Right.
But if you're really focused and really intentional, then you can be a 17-year-old kid right now, upload a few pieces of digital art, and be a millionaire tomorrow. And that's insane. We've never had that. And I'm like, as a 32-year-old man, I'm going like, okay, I got so much programming to like drop off and like all this, but like I know I can do the same thing that like my nephew probably will do next week, and I'll just be like, damn, whatever, okay.
You're like, I spent $50,000 learning how to do this one thing, and your cousin's like, oh yeah, no, I mean I learned that like last week, dude. I'm good.
Right. Like, oh, I invested in some shit coin, and now I quadrupled my money in an hour.
What I hope is that dude that's making not billions, but a lot of money off of those pixelated gorilla monkey NFTs. I hope that kid was shit on by all his teachers, because that would be like my ultimate dream. Because my teachers all shit on me growing up. I mean, they loved me, but they also fucking hated me.
Oh yeah.
And I always wanted to be like, yo, well, someday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Oh yeah. I'm gonna sell all my doodles that I did instead of listening to my class.
And to be like,
it's gonna pay off. I promise.
17-year-old kid when that happens, and you're just like, I'm just gonna get my high school diploma because I think it's funny now. Like, that would be a great experience,
dude. The high school diploma is gonna be an NFT one day. It's gonna. Be, you have to pay extra for it because it's
get your own NFT diploma. Well, I'm hoping that some of these, like, especially young kids that are coming into like levels of like unheard of wealth or finding things through this, like through crypto or whatever. This is like, people were waiting especially like last summer. I heard a lot of people like waiting for like, when are the billionaires gonna like, have a change of heart? And it's like, oh my God, they're all old men with lead poisoning, right? Like we have to remember how much lead paint was in the walls in the 30s, in every coffee mug that they drank out of.
Dude.
They all had lead in it. They're all insane. They're not going to change their heart, right?
Even all the coffee cans had lead paint on them. Everything had fucking lead paint, dude.
Every person over 50 years old has at least a minor level of legitimate lead poisoning that they're just operating with.
Everybody in the chat that's over 50 is like, huh?
Right. Well, go get yourself tested. There's like some radiation treatments you can get. You'll see the world completely differently.
I'd like to counter that. If anybody that's our age, early 30s,
you're not exempt from it. Sorry.
So I was stabbed by a pencil by just for fun by accident as a friend. How many have you guys ever been stabbed by a pencil? I mean, that
for fun by accident.
Like we were,
Oh yeah.
I think it was like they changed to graphite in like the 70s or the 80s or something.
Oh, okay.
You might be all right.
Okay,
but
I might be all right.
Where we grew up, Ben, all of these houses were built in prime lead days. Okay. So
if you were ever as a kid, I do remember as a kid having like moments where I was like, why was I licking the windowsill there? That was weird, but it did taste good.
That is delicious.
Yeah. Oh, it's very tasty. So, but we shouldn't expect the people who are in the established like power and regime and money right now to do anything. But there is like a really legitimate, like I see at least like a really legitimate chance for like some of these young kids who just fall into like shitloads of money and then like come together online and like it's 10 kids who are all now have $100+ million to their name and they're all under 25 and they just go, I don't know, you want to try to like do some cool things, like, end some problems, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
and we'll make a YouTube channel about it, and we'll get more money for it. And it's like, it's gonna turn into that.
It's
Of
gonna.
like a especially post celebrity. I don't know if you guys have realized, but nobody likes celebrities anymore. It's a great thing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, also,
Except for Matthew McConaughey
yeah, everybody likes it.
Yeah, he's kind of all right.
and Keanu Reeves.
Well,
Yeah,
can I say something about that topic about like this?
No.
Dang it, Joe.
And Brendan Fraser.
And,
Okay.
Okay, we're done.
what?
Yeah.
Your turn, Ben.
You know, you're putting up some gems though. Yeah.
This unexpected turn of events where like 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, people that are 10 years younger than us are making a great living with most unexpected ways.
Yeah.
Like it's almost as if like the unexpected people are going to make the most expected changes where everybody's like, oh, someday somebody will take care of that shit.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's all maybe. What if it is the people that no one really gave a shit about?
Like the 10-year-old Zimbabwe kid who like figured out how to do like wind power for his entire community.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, what the hell? I
Yeah.
was like eating boogers when I was 10. But then I also didn't grow up in some like, you know,
You didn't grow up
third
with
world
problems.
air. Exactly. You know, I had my, we all had our problems, but nothing on that level.
Oh,
you know,
dude.
yeah,
Right. Like facing challenges like that every day. Yeah, it's so I forgot where we were going with that. But it was I see this like aspect of wait, go back right before you said this about what
I have so the point I guess I'm kind of leading to is that Joe, well, there's two Joes. So Joe Molloy, Joe M, you mentioned earlier that there's something to the collective consciousness. And that's something that Joe and I have been on for quite some time, maybe like the beginning of the summer. Like we've been about a lot of stuff. And then now we're like kind of focusing on here and there and like take a break. This collective consciousness thing, man, it's so interesting, and I'd love to hear your opinion. And I got notes from one of your own videos.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but first I want to kind of lead into this subject. Have you heard of the single electron reality theory?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with?
It's very sweet.
It is sweet, dude. I love that. Yeah. So, Joe, help me out, dude. It's Bashar. Okay, so there's this dude. He's a channeler, right? So you're familiar with Bashar. Yeah. He kind of dovetailed with something. You guys didn't say the same thing. It was like I saw a video of Bashar, and then I saw your fucking video like yesterday, dude, and it just connected a lot of dots for me. And the Bashar thought was, and it might not have even been his thought. I'm sure, like this.
I feel very connected to Bashar as I don't know what this means, as a very, very old friend. I love Bashar very much.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm still interested. We're trying to get him on the show. He said he'll hit me back up when he's
sure.
He's busy.
Yeah.
I've never talked to him. I'm kidding. But
I don't know. He does. I've gotten a chance to talk to him once. I was on one of his streams one time. It was great.
Really?
Oh, that's pretty cool,
dude. Yeah. I would love to be connected with. I've sent him a couple emails, but dude, he seems like a cool dude. The guy who But the idea that he's on stage, right, and he's talking about there's two lights on either side of the stage, and he blinks one on and the other one is on. And he says this theory or this idea of reality is that everything's one, okay? Like there is no two elements here. And Joe, this goes back to like one of our earliest episodes, dude. Are we one or are we not all one, dude? And so this thing goes, he's talking about this light that blinks and then blinks. To your perception, there's just one. Because it's blinking, it's on. But if they blink fast enough, they're both on at a certain point. So now your perception is that there's two blinking lights.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like this dovetailing thing where like, okay, so it does have to do with perception.
Oh, it's 100% about perception.
Okay.
This whole thing is about perception, which is why it's so important that we quote, be true to ourselves, because our perception is all we really have. That's it. We can't really see from somebody else's perception. What we can do is really feel what they understand if two people are really embodying their whole thing, right? So in this whole idea of it all being like one like one thing, right? There was at one point, we have this in our science, in our regular science. This is the Big Bang. It was all one thing, and then it banged out, right? Whatever. But it was,
Bang, dude.
yeah, but it really just like started moving out. And like you said, if the speed becomes so infinitely fast that we can't, we already know that we can only see things at like whatever it is, 25 frames a second, right? So if you're doing subliminal messaging, we can't recognize it if it's faster than like 30 frames a second or something like that, but our brain will still take in the picture, right? So we know these things. So the same, and we can just look at them and be like, oh, this is cool, or we can like connect the dots on like what all these things really mean. And that's really is just like the development of consciousness, the raising of awareness. You see these things, how they all connect together. So how I like to put it, it's like if you imagine from a point, right? From a point in space-time, there was an event, and that event then acted like a prism, right? So then a prism shattering came out
Started
of that.
partying.
Right.
Party, dude.
It was almost like a crack in the space-time, right? And then it moves out, and then inside of the further expanding prism, make everything like a dot, right? So then it's like you're building this prism with a bunch of those, like, those little magnetic marbles that you can like stack up and make the shape, right? So it's like that. So it's like this whole grow, and it continues to grow and expand. We are all one of those dots, right? And so what we need to do, what our purpose is to just realize ourselves, be that actual version of the dot, and then we can eventually, whether it's at death or through some enlightenment, get back to the top of the prism and rejoin the whole part of it. And from what I understand, like that's the whole process of like the actual moving into enlightenment. Enlighten, you're going into the light there.
Ooh, you said top of the pyramid, dude.
And these all of these symbolism is very important because this is what was used. This is why they used these things. The eye at the top of the pyramid was literally this is from my own bullshit understanding, which is really, it comes purely from my experience and then from the little bit of that, right? Nobody's taught me anything about this. I've learned from people like Bashar and like from these, right? But it's like, I've just experienced these things. So that eye at the top of the pyramid thing is a symbolism for this whole process of truly awakening. You stare in this metaphor of like being one of these dots in this whole prism pyramid. You stare at the sun, the metaphorical sun. You stare back at your origin, your cosmic origin, and then you say, what is it that my heart, which is really my frequency, my harmonic frequency that plays through my heart, what is it that it really wants? And if you get the experience of being able to stare at the sun, stare at the origin point of the light, that's what you see. That is these vision quests. That's what this is. And that was the purpose of having every young man do that. And sorry to anybody who's like, I'm stressing young man, because like that's what it was back in the time. It was primarily young men that went on these vision quests. Young women had their own experience, which was way more natural, and it came way more as a part of like their own connection to their first menstrual cycle and their first like getting in touch with their own like hormones and cycles and rhythms, like where you do the same thing as young men, but it included this very external physical, be there for the tribe, because that's what your actual cycle is about. This wake up and be the sun for the tribe, while the women be the moon. And while the other non-gender, harder to categorize people be the mystics and the shamans and the priests and the weirdos and the fun people, and like they just get to do their thing. Yeah, and like, that's all.
Mule, Mule says his wife has a special experience each month.
Is this the dude that always talks about his ex-wife? Or oh no, he says my current wife. Sorry, Mule. Who is it that always like makes a joke about their ex-wife?
I think it's why.
Why? Okay.
I think it's why.
I'm sorry, Mule. I thought too fast.
And then Anthony says, well, they went to the light in Poltergeist, which was not a good idea. Right? That's just some Hollywood stuff.
That's fair.
But, there could be something to that, Also, I wanted to kind of get into the collective, because this is a word. This is a word that bothers me just a little bit.
Good.
The collective, right? I feel like the idea of a collective, maybe not on a conscious level, I think that's what we're striving to, but on a earthly 3D level, I think a collective can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's what causes tension, because you have multiple collectives with different ideas of how to become the collective. And that is such a like twisty mind fuck that you're like, okay, hold on. I like the idea of the collective, but do I like the idea of what I want the collective to be? Because my idea of what the collective is most certainly not what anybody else's idea of the collective is. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the whole idea of like, well, like if we wanted to be like a spacefaring civilization, if we come in contact with other, things, there will be like a one world system and blah, blah, blah. And like, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Right. But then like, but I don't know if I want to be in the Chinese world system. Right. I want to be in the American world system, or like the Swedish world system,
You're so right about this. And I love that we just like have all like made these big assumptions and all agree with them. And they're like, yeah, we meet aliens and they got this cool like Star Trek one world government thing. That's easy to understand. And like we just like brush it off and like move forward with it. And it's like, man, I think we lose in all of this, we lose this sentiment of like as above, so below. We got to remember this, but like this is a real thing. As weird and intricate and nuanced as our world is, so are the higher worlds. So are the other dimensions. So are these other places. They're just as weird. They're just as nuanced. There's not one galactic federation of light that has one specific idea that the whole universe is like, yeah, we agree with this. Yeah. I don't. Like,
Wait, are you saying there's not a galactic confederation?
Oh no, there totally is. There definitely is.
See,
but like they don't have. They're not the authority on like a thing. It's just like the UN.
They're not that cool. Like they're there.
The UN.
Like
It's
Yeah.
the UN. It's the intergalactic UN, and it turns out sometimes the UN is way fucking far behind on ideas.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the same thing is happening. I mean, part of this is like I'm a little bitter because like I'm with you with some of these words and some of these ideas, and like spirituality and spiritualism itself has gotten like such a weird turn in pop culture right now. And there's like
Yeah.
people on TikTok, and we're like, I'm channeling messages from the Galactic Federation of Light. And it's like, honestly, you probably are. I don't even doubt that. I doubt, like, why do you think that that's a good thing? What is your assumption that you're
Yeah.
making that you're just like, well, it's some higher dimensional group, so it probably knows more than me.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it wants your compliance for some reason.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just maybe.
See, I think when it comes to the collective, if everything is all one, right? The important part is how you individually grow with yourself. Because if you are everything and you individually make that awesome, then whatever happens after all of this, your collective is then awesome because you are everything.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah, we can't like have this idea like, oh, the collective. Yeah, that's like you and me and everybody on my block and like everybody that lives in the world. Like we all have to have the same idea on how this works. And if you don't agree, then like you're not part of the collective. You know, there's a very select group of people.
Bashar actually talks
for thousands of years
about this.
Does he?
Yeah, and it's well done. Of all of the takes I've heard on it, this is the sort of analogy that I've heard him paint was imagine us, the collective, as one puzzle, and that is the collective. Now, the puzzle is only solved, right? As in, like, you only complete the puzzle when you have every piece in its proper place.
I like that.
So we all gotta be our proper place. The problem that we experience right now is that we literally have the puzzle like flipped upside down, where people are like, I don't want to show my true colors. Like, I can't flip myself over because then what if I'm too much? And that becomes like the huge fear of people. It's like, what if I flip myself over and I'm part of the puzzle? I'm the piece of the puzzle that literally has the UFO on it.
There's always that one piece that's like, hey.
Right. And it's like, what if your piece has the monster's face right there? And for everyone to understand the picture, it's critical that you speak your voice. And I don't know. And now we're talking about a real big picture.
Yeah.
And so with a lot of details. So truly, if we want to understand this real picture, everybody's got to be flipped over and in their right place. And
I love that you said that because Ben and I always make this comparison of like, yeah, it's a massive puzzle and we're just trying to put these pieces in to the right place. But you've added another layer to this whole thing that like, not only are you trying to put the puzzle pieces in its place, but you're fucking doing it with the puzzle flipped over backwards.
Right.
So the main thing is like, let's flip this puzzle over so we can see the picture. Yeah. In the first place, then it's going to be easier to put those puzzle pieces in because now you have some sort of reference to it, you know?
Yeah. We when we start speaking and being and expressing ourselves in a way where we're not we can accept what people are saying. We're not threatened by other people's, and we're like willing to like not sort of like sort ourselves out, but like you said, create our individual worlds in a way that actually benefits and works for us to a degree that we become beneficial to the things around us. And like that, to stick with the analogy, like a good puzzle piece when it flips itself over is beneficial to the other puzzle pieces that are near it because it can help them find their places, right?
Yep.
Can I complicate that visualization further? this puzzle piece that we're speaking of, we think of this thing as like a 2-dimensional thing, like it's 50-50.
Right.
But in reality, man, we were talking about neurodivergence earlier. And is that 50-50 or are we? I don't think so, man. I think there's varying
not at all.
degrees. Like there's just
Right.
like there's a little bit in everybody that just a little bit there, a little bit there. Like
so if we want to make if we want to make this whole analogy a little more complicated, we can take this from a puzzle, and what we're really making is a song.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is where these concepts, you can start to fold in these concepts of harmonics, of frequency, of vibration, of all this kind of stuff. Because what we're really doing is coming together for a moment in time as we move through what is very special on this world, time. Very unique to certain dimensions, to certain realms, right? Think about how weird time is in just our dream realm, right?
Yeah.
It's so special here, and it's also kind of torture, right? Because we want things that are far off in the future. There are some things we can never do anything about. There are coincidences that's seemingly completely out of our control, right? We're completely victims to time, right? Our death is emanated by time, right? Whatever. But it's also like the substance that we have that is used to create the magic that we have here. So when all of us, metaphorically are singing our song, then we're helping all of the other parts of the song find their own alignment in this whole orchestra, and then come together and sing more and more of this song. And when we're singing it, it literally resonates, as in it increases the frequency and the energy. And then as more of this song comes together, more of it comes, and then we create with this sound, right? There's a reason why going back to this other point we made about this little dot, the Big Bang, right? Makes this sound. Because it's this idea of like, it's really our vibrations and it's really our sound that creates things, right? So as we all frequency make this harmonic sound together, what we're really creating is on an ethereal plane, a grid, an electromagnetic, energetic grid for an earth to be created at a higher plane, at a higher frequency of reality. That's this whole splitting of that we're experiencing right now, and why it seems like everything is everything, but also nothing makes sense. Whatever. We're in this phase, and we'll be here for a while. It seems like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is a light. There is a light in all of this. That there really is. Like I feel it viscerally and have for years and years. I feel like I'm trying to do what I can. I know there's people that feel it to varying degrees and are doing things, but like, it's there, and it's taking the form of just self-realization. Be your honest self, and not this like spiritual, like be weird for the sake of being weird. It's no, be
Yes.
Be your honest self for the sake of contributing to the earth.
Like I feel like that's the definition of awkwardness. If you're like trying to be something you're not, forcing that shit, like that's being awkward, dude. Just be
the amount of
weird,
vegans with leather purses drives me insane. Like, you can't fucking take it here at all.
Right. And people just spouting off about, you gotta understand, like, I have started to openly talk about this kind of stuff in a gradual way over the last 12 months. And then really over the last like month, I've been like, okay, I've been kind of out of the closet as like a contactee, person for like a year or so. I'm going to really start spouting off. This is 10 years of me going, I'm never going to talk to anybody about this. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's like you got people with like crystals on their forehead that are like, I know how the world works, and I'm going to just, and they're like, to a degree, I love it, because it is just like, we need this like chaos and fireworks around the whole thing. But really, the answer is not the chaos and the firework. It's like this slow path. It's like the walk down the street over
They're
there.
almost like the inspiration to take a look at
Exactly.
everything else, like
Yeah.
like Ben and I have come across this guy who had like a copper pyramid on his head, and we were like,
Oh yeah,
okay.
I know
And
the
I
now-
feel like that dude's tried to meet everybody.
and now here we are. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And it's like
He was also
not
very
so
pushy
weird anymore.
He was also very pushy. He was like, "You guys need. Look, I'm telling the truth. It's the only truth. You will buy a book now. You will buy. Give me money now. Give me buy.
Here's a
you will buy it
12-page packet. I'm gonna need you
Right.
to read all of it. before
And
you
that's the
interview.
thing, man. Like the real truth, everybody's got access to. Like it's not special. And that comes back to why our perspective is so important. Because there's one truth. There's one big truth, right? And it's fucking weird as shit. But all of us can tap into it. And when we tap into it, we have our own perspective of it.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Hey, I kind of want to stop there because I feel like we're about to end on another, and I have to pee, and I want to be a part of this conversation really bad.
Oh, sure.
And if anybody else has to pee, maybe we'll take a $5 or whatever.
Let's
You
do a
guys keep
break.
going. just letting you know, or if you're good, Joe, or
I'm chilling, man.
Yeah, man, I'll hang out.
Man,
I got
we'll
a real
keep rolling,
flexible
dude.
schedule
all right.
these
Well, I'm
days.
gonna take myself out. Y'all just hang out, and I'll come back.
Cool,
We
yeah.
can keep rolling, man. Hey, 509, man, we might be able to work something out for you, brother. When it comes to a beat, I've got a few friends who make beats. They actually made the intro to the podcast. So if you're looking for beats, man, let us know. Maybe we can throw you a couple. Yeah,
Man,
let's see
I
what's
wish
going
I was
on.
musically inclined at all.
Yeah,
I don't feel like that is in my wheelhouse whatsoever.
I'm a bass player. Ben's a singer. He's got the voice of an angel. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to play bass when I was young. I'm just like it's so hard. It's hard to learn.
People don't realize how difficult the bass is. Most people will pick up a bass thinking that it's 4 strings, so it's way easier, but they don't realize the mechanics behind it.
Oh,
And like
yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
you gotta
felt
have like
I
physical
played for-
fitness.
Yeah, I played for a year, and then I started really watching like really good bass players, and like Flea and all these guys, and like how
Yeah.
they're playing it, and I'm going like, oh, never mind. I'm just
Yeah.
no thanks. I can't do that. That whatever that is, I can't do it.
I love the there's a great documentary on John Entwistle from The Who, and talking about
Oh,
how he's
nice.
kind of like the guy who invented bass solos, because at the time the electric bass had just become like kind of an instrument, and they were around after World War II. It was kind of the same thing with the Beatles, and so a lot of them would just load up their gear and they would go to like old blown up like buildings, and they would set up and they would throw these little parties. Well, John Entwistle actually used to be a trumpet player, so what he did was he took trumpet music and he transformed it to the
that's
bass
Cool.
and started making these cool little solos, trumpet solos. So
that makes
bass,
sense, though.
yeah, bass
Similar-
solos came from trumpet solos. And when you listen to a bass
Okay.
solo,
Yeah, it sounds
it's like a fucking trumpet.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
makes
cool.
a lot of sense though, because like you really couldn't do a bass solo many other ways than
Right. Yeah.
like that very pronounced individual notes like that.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple slide in there, but yeah, it's different.
And then you get into the new era of like Sly and Family Stone and the whole funk and
yeah.
soul type of music came out, and then you're like, whoa, there's this thump action going on.
Right.
What
but
is
they're, like,
that all
hitting it
about?
and
Yeah,
doing, oh yeah,
what's
man.
that
I
thumb
saw some
movement,
cool
you know?
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I
yeah.
love the bass, man. The
Cool
bass
instrument.
takes a certain person for sure.
Sure.
To
Yeah, they say
appreciate it.
that there's a lot of all those things like I was and I tended to gravitate towards those things. Like I wonder if you like ever play, like I was a catcher in baseball, and then I would say that like that's a mindset. I was a hockey goalie, that's a mindset.
Yeah.
And like all of these like certain things. I was like, why did I gravitate towards all of these weird
Yeah, the
things?
things that seem to be the easiest, but are actually the most integral part of the entire operation.
Right.
You know, the goalie. Everybody needs a goalie.
You need a goalie, and they're all weird.
I'm not
No
the forward
offense
or
to
anything,
goalies
but
out there, but they're all weird.
yeah, and they have cool helmets, man.
Oh yeah, the best goalie part is like you get to paint out the cool helmet.
Yeah, dude. Are you a hockey fan? You like hockey?
A little bit, yeah. I liked. I mean, I grew up in Detroit, so like it's like or Metro Detroit, but so it's like this.
Okay, yeah,
Everybody likes hockey, and I was a kid through the whole
yeah,
Detroit era run, so it's like everybody likes hockey to a certain degree. Um,
yes,
I don't follow it super specifically. I follow
yeah,
football quite a bit now. It's like
yeah.
as I'm getting older, I'm like watching more and more football. I'm like, okay, I actually
Yeah,
now
this
that
is
I
cool.
don't feel like these guys are my age. It's like, no, I'm a grizzled old man now compared. I can watch this again.
Right, yeah, dude, yeah. Yeah, man, I like my football. I'm definitely into hockey, but I'm really into hockey because I like the Dallas Stars, and the Dallas
Oh,
Stars,
okay.
their goal music and like their intro music was written by Pantera. So like
Oh, that's
Pantera was like
cool.
my shit when I was like a teenager. So I fell in love immediately with it. So
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that they used that.
yeah, they were playing in this for the Stanley Cup, and they were down in the cup, and I guess the guys got together, and they're from Dallas too, and so they wrote a tune, and they were like, "Hey, we just wrote you guys a little, like motivational tune," and they ended up keeping it, and it's still there to this day.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, if anybody out there wants to hear it, it's called "Puck Off." And it's by Pantera, and it's the
Of course.
Dallas Stars theme song, and it's fucking awesome.
Fuck off.
Get you a pool.
Boys, while we're talking about music.
Hockey? Oh, okay.
Hockey,
Oh.
music, football.
Shit. What's the difference? I kind of wanted to dovetail this in with this theme that we're talking about with well, it's got to do with a lot of things. We're talking about frequencies, vibration, music. We're talking about triangles. Have you guys ever heard of this dude named John Coltrane?
John Coltrane, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So he actually drew these
Yeah.
and this might seem kind of weird with the pentagram in the middle.
No, I'm
but he
familiar.
He wrote out the circle of fifths, which is a very common music. It's how music works. You go from the C to the B flat to the A flat to the G flat to the E to the D. But
I don't get it.
that's just the outer ring. It's C. Yeah. Well, Joe Molloy. There's two Joes. It's confusing. Me and Joe used to be in a band together for like 10 years. So like, I don't read music. Neither does Joe. I went to school for music for a time, but I still never fully got it. But I don't know if you guys noticed this scenario where it's C to F to B flat to E flat to A flat to D flat to G flat to B, E. It's a triangle, man. We were talking about triangles and this motif of the triangle, the eye being on top, and this mirror. Joe Molloy, you were speaking about this realization and this embodiment of, look, everything. This is going back to your video that I just watched today. I don't know when you posted it, but you were talking about just an idea that you were having, that your reality, everything that's physical in your reality is a mirror of itself that already exists, right? And you only get what you put into it. You only get back what you put into it. Everything that doesn't exist yet, you have to exist in this plane of imagining where you're going to be, whether that be success, whether that be a new job or a wife or a family or whatever you want that doesn't exist yet. You have to exist in this plane. And dude, this visual that I got as you were saying this in this video was this, dude. It was the all-seeing eye, which is crazy because you brought that up earlier. I have had this prepared since like.
Okay, that's great.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So one more thing. So as we were talking about the eye up top and the reflection, and we were talking about this wave and this duality and this cycle that we all go through, man. We look to the right, we look to the left, we look for answers, and then we ultimately become back to one. And we're looking at ourselves in the mirror. That's the visual that I got.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you could speak to that or if that resonates with you at all.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I love the little triangle idea too, where you're just looking at it because it's an imperfect say something. But if you look at your like hands, your skin, right, your arms and things like this, you can see like the patterns on your skin become like little triangles, right,
Yeah.
little diamonds often, but it's mostly this like woven triangle shape, right? And
Yeah.
if you're not familiar, that's the fascia that's in your skin. It's woven through your muscles. It ultimately becomes your tendons, which becomes your bones. Like it is the stuff that is like woven through us, and it creates the tension inside of us, right?
Mhm.
So this whole motif of this like three and this triangle is like really on par with us being in a three-dimensional world. We have a binary understanding of a lot of systems and a lot of things. There's yes, no, good, bad, right, left, up, down, whatever. If we stay locked into this binary system, like it creates this, and it also just makes sense. Look at there's part of our physicality that is binary, right? We're split pretty mirrored down the middle. We have two hemispheres in our brain, right? We shouldn't part of this whole spiritual world is like against the binary understanding of things, and it's like we don't need to fight it, we need to understand it, because we also should realize that we're like conduits of it at the same time. So we're never gonna like break it and push it away. But what comes in from that binary is this imagery that you're talking about that gets put through is at a certain point, if you balance the two sides of something, then you start to open up a third way, right? And if you grow that way and express that way, then it literally, like, if you start to live a balanced life, which means you start to embody both of these binary understandings, right? You start to give properly to what you receive and flow proper, right? All of these different things with it. You start to literally expand yourself and raise up this part of yourself. Like and you gotta remember, like, these are thematic and like paralleling, right, parables, stories that include symbology that go back way, thousands and thousands of years. But there's all these connections to really real science that we're starting to pull through. So this notion of like our literal brain chemistry matters so much to who we are, right? To our happiness levels, our energy levels, right? When we start to live a really proper life, and when I see that, I mean like a life that you could say is in alignment with like the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, right? You're living a life that your thoughts are in alignment with your actions, with your ideals, with your beliefs, right?
Yeah.
You start to grow and expand this. You start to get more serotonin in your brain, which actually starts to give you better posture. Like these whole thing, all of this stuff that you see, like these products that you can like put on your neck and your back to straighten out your posture, like posture is corrected by serotonin and serotonin alone. That's it, right? There's scattered science to prove that. There's very breakthrough science to be like, holy shit, it's watch the body language with this person with the measurable lower serotonin versus this person, right?
Damn, I need some serotonin in my life.
I relate to that so much, dude, because, dude, I'm a graphic designer. I work at my computer all day. And when I'm really like zoned in on a project, I'm like super stoked about it. I'm sitting like this, dude.
I'm locked
just
in.
Locked in, dude.
And what is
That's
that?
crazy.
We need to be in a proper position to line up the energy centers in our body to channel in higher consciousness energy better. That's all it means. If we're slouching like this, feel the difference in yourself. Like stand up and like visualize like your skull opening up, not like breaking and opening, but like your energy centers like opening up, and you can feel more energy flowing in, and then immediately break it and like slouch, and you can see that it like turns off. It like slows down. So like this whole thing, okay, we start to live a proper life. more serotonin. I feel actually more confident. But yes, I'm less triggered by anxiety. So I'm actually like a proper leader, right? Because I can handle more anxiety and deal with it better because I have more serotonin. Keeps me in a better posture. My third eye starts to get, because more of this cosmic energy essentially is like washing over me more often. My third eye starts to clear up. So now I'm able to actually see things intuitively and through clairvoyantly, maybe even like get to that level, right? So that's where the actual eyeball comes in. It's like, as I develop this whole pyramid of myself, treat myself like a temple and develop myself, what comes at the peak of the temple is my eye into staring at my own sun, which is my individual destiny.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't think the pyramids have ever slouched. I think it's
They
got
have not. No.
great posture
Yeah, good posture.
for a long time, dude.
You know
Yeah.
what's crazy, dude, is Ben, you've heard this story probably 100 times now, but it's funny because when I took DMT this one time, and I had this like crazy experience where like I felt myself come out of like the back of my head, and then just like I was like up
Yeah.
like near the ceiling looking down at myself, and I had like fucking good posture. Like I remember that, like and like I was, in those days, dude, like I was one of those, I don't have a bed frame, like
Yeah.
it's just like a mattress on the floor, and, like I'm just chilling there. It's very easy to just kind of be slouched over, but like, dude, I took this DMT, and like I was just like like a fucking
Mhm.
rod, dude. Like it was crazy. And I remember like seeing that. It's crazy. I don't, that's one of those, you didn't really see yourself, but then like, well, did I see myself?
I remember you telling me that you kind of floated above yourself and kind of were in the
Yeah.
room.
It was like all these like crazy colors, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the back of my head, like from the ceiling, like way higher than what my ceiling is. But
Right.
like,
those ceilings weren't very high.
no, they weren't very high at all.
They were built in the 90s. Think of
We were on the first floor of the apartment.
they were like just an inch under like 8 feet. They were like 7 feet, like 11 inches, dude. Like that was.
Yeah.
It's interesting of the little indoor basketball games in that.
Yeah.
build, I'm sure.
Yes.
It'd be
Yeah,
fun.
that's a good
It'd be
point.
fun. I'm just saying.
Oh man.
Yeah, that whole, I'm sure that was a real experience. And like when you got out of body like that, projected, your body reverts to its natural state because it doesn't have your fucking own, the scrambled part of your consciousness. No offense, we all got them, It
Yeah.
doesn't got that inside of your mind making you slouch, right? It gets out of it, and then you're just, oh no, this is how I should be. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
all I should be.
And that
Yeah.
sucks, man, because I do landscaping, so like my back always hurts.
Oh yeah. Well, just make sure you in the mornings wake up and like, how cats do that thing where they wake up and they stretch all funny and weird, penticulating, I believe it's called. Do that. And more often, take a couple times to just do that throughout the day, and just like,
I second-
stretch all weird and over, and it will help break up those like energy.
I second that. I've never seen Joe stretch, dude.
Yeah.
Joe, you got to start stretch. We got to do some cat stretches,
dude.
bro.
I can't even touch my toes. Like if I sit on the ground and put my legs straight out together, I can't even sit all the way up. Like I have to like lean back because my hammies, bro, are like so tight. But
your hamstrings are basically Whataburger French fries.
I was told though, that's why I was such a good long jump and triple jumper. I don't understanding like the way that like your body works. I don't believe that really, but they said that it's because you were so tight that you were able to spring really hard, but you did enough stretching to where it wasn't enough to like damage it, They were like, yeah, you make that big stretch and then you spring and you pop off a lot harder than everybody else. I was like, I guess that makes sense, but
That makes sense because I used to run hurdles, and when I would stretch a shit ton before I ran my 100-meter, I would be like a minute, not a minute, but like a bit slower than
Yeah.
if I didn't stretch. And the coach, I was like, dude, if I don't stretch, I promise you I'm gonna win this fucking race. And he's like,
Yeah.
you gotta stretch. And I was like, all right, well, we're gonna lose.
It's because
Yeah,
you were
it's
wearing your
weird.
tights.
Like, how much of that is psychosomatic, and how much is it is like no? It's literally like a tension thing. You're more
Yeah.
explosive if you're a little tighter. And it's
I'm
like
open.
I
I'm open to
I
that.
believe both.
Yeah, I feel like it could be both, could be one or the other. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird spot.
Just
Yeah,
like
dude.
almost like anything, right? Like other than like I guess math.
yeah.
But even math, it's like my wife actually posed this question to me. She was like, "Is it okay? Well, let's do this experiment. This is fun. We're talking about like truths, right? Math, right? Like that's like the ultimate truth. Like, well, one
Right.
plus is one plus one equals."
Two, I hope. Yeah.
So one cloud plus one cloud equals
Right.
One big ass cloud.
one big ass cloud.
One big cloud. Yeah.
So it just depends on the perspective of what are we talking about here.
Right.
It's kind of fun.
Even on the technical scale of mathematics, and this is like one of those things that it's like I don't know where this came from. Like this is just going to be one of those things that I try to unpack and understand for myself, but it came inside of this big download that like we understand mathematics as like a base 10 system, right? Where we have 1, 10, 100, 1,000, right? And that's kind of like what we use to base all of our math on. And what math is as a more effective thing is a base 12 system, and I don't really know what that means. I just know like if you look at like the number 12 and it does impressive things, and like the numbers 3 and 4 do impressive things, and you look at the 12 by 12 becomes 144, and this great optimal number for building all these like mathematical concepts that are way above my head. But it's just this idea that like what I think is important about it is the idea that like I heard that or I started to understand that, and then I looked into it a little bit and saw that like base 12 math was a thing in other countries, other cultures have used it, and it's like, oh, this is just it's a language that this is a different way to read the language than this. And when you actually start reading the language like this, it's different. The whole thing, physics works different, apparently, in base 12 mathematics than it does in base 10.
I love
Like
that.
some of the problems we face are solved in that, but we just don't use that.
You could even bring that into space and time too, because anytime I'm like, hey, it's 12 and a half inches, I put 12.5, but that's not really
right.
0.5 of what? Is it 0.5 of 10 millimeters?
1/12 or
like 1/12? Exactly.
Yeah.
So like, shit, dude, where are we at now? Okay, so it's 12 and a half inches every 60 seconds. So like 60. Okay, so now we're on a base 60. Shit. Oh no.
The 60 is just 12 by 5. That's where base 12 math comes from. Is I can't remember how they did it, but it was a thing with your hand where you would count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 knuckles times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could do that, and that's 12 by 5. That's 60, and you could do 60 by 60, 120, and that was like where counting came from.
Dude,
Whoa, that's
I feel like
crazy.
you're gonna summon some kind of like ethereal with doing this, dude. I don't know. Have you ever seen the OA?
Maybe why they did it. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Have y'all seen that show, the OA? Like,
No, I haven't. I've heard things about it. Weird things.
it's pretty dope. I mean,
Yeah.
I always start it, watch 5 episodes, and then I stop for 8 months, and then I turn it back on, and I'm like, shit, what were we watching again? But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You gotta have time. There's so many episodes.
Sure.
Have y'all ever seen like those in China? What are those things called? Not the little bean counter things. Not obelisk. That's the wrong. Is it obelisk? No, obelisk is that tall thing. But you know what I'm talking about with the little
abacus.
beads. Abacus, yeah. Have you seen that, dude? Like how they train children, like in China with the abacus, and like they're like super speed counters, and like they'll
Oh,
learn how to
no.
do it from like childhood. And then when they become like 10, 11, 12, they're like bam, 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 bam. Like they're just knocking these things out and they're counting and doing math. And then once they graduate from that, they're so it's such a routine to them to do
Right.
it that when they're doing math, you see their hand move on the table because they're counting with their
Right,
hand
they're-
like in their head while they're doing
Yep.
math, like moving their hands all weird. And that's why, because they're like freaking supercomputers. Jesus,
Yeah,
man.
we got, and we seem to be a little collectively scared of like learning, new math or whatever that it was called, or like new methods to do these
Oh,
kinds of
the
things.
Common Core stuff.
Oh, dude, yeah. The Common Core is based on what I understood about the Common Core is that this was the method that they've used to like understand math for way longer than what we're using the currently.
Right.
And it's like a much more effective way. It just takes some learning.
And it's also 20 minutes longer to get your answer.
Oh, sure. When it's the
Just-
lower level math. Yeah.
You're like, God damn it. How many
Yeah.
squares do I have to make and add up and then subtract and divide all this stuff? You're like, this is crazy. Because my little brother, he ended up having to do some of that stuff. And like I was sitting there and I was like, dude, just add 8 and 5. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand the boxes.
It comes into play when it gets to like calculus. And then you can do like high level math easier at a real high.
I guess so.
that.
In math class and physics and all that
Yeah.
stuff, like you're always supposed to show your work. And I would pass every test. Well, I would have passed every test had I shown my work. But like when I show my work, showing my work confuses the crap out of me. Like when I see the process,
I
get
agree with
so
you.
confused. But I can do it in my head, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Right. I think there's literally something intuitive about math that we can tap into, but we very much like language can sort of eventually be this like intuitive thing where you're like sort of figuring out the meanings to words that you've never really heard based on like context clues and other things like this.
Yeah.
There's like this intuitive thing about math that we could really like learn to use, but our culture has like just a fucked view of it as a whole. We like make like weird, like ideas and beliefs about like math. It's like, I'm just not a math person. It's like, no, you're a person. You're a math person. Like your body is based on math. Like
you just understand it different. Like,
right.
Yeah.
You just need to know how to, and part of it is like, because I think we're teaching math, especially to neurodivergent people, in a way that isn't actually how we're naturally supposed to understand math.
Yeah.
We're supposed to understand it in this really weird, physically represented, intuitively, base 12, somehow entwined with our bodies way. But instead, we use this like very mechanical, very binary, very removed thing. I think there's some shit in there too.
And it was the same thing like with music, like with Ben and all those guys. They were very like they get it, the theory and all that stuff. And like I'll pop in and jam with you, but the minute somebody's like, "No, dude, that's like a E flat," which I don't even know if is a thing. I'm fucking lost, and I'm not interested anymore because I don't understand what you're saying.
If we just jammed, you don't have to know shit. You could just pick it up and do it.
Yeah,
like you know it, and you don't have to show your work. That's the
might
point.
take like trial and error, but eventually you'll be like, oh, that's the one that sounds correct.
Yeah. And because he did it, because Joe you did it that way, you always remembered it because it was related to a lot of different feel, touch, sound. It wasn't just like, hey, here's a construct that's made up by humans, because like a lot of math is, right? Like, I mean, a lot of, is that wrong? Like some of it is though. Like we just kind of made it up.
It's all very mathy, but
it's all very mathy.
You do it, you feel it. I feel like you can even feel math. Like just in general, like, I don't know. You can.
Joe, your house is haunted.
What the hell?
Oh,
No,
cool.
I gotta I got a little
that's a little
little
pop-up.
corgi butt, and he's
Pop,
messing
pop,
with
pop,
my aliens. So they're
Pop,
they're
pop,
just
pop.
they're jamming back there. So, but yeah, dude, the
Dude.
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah. So part of that, like that, this whole, you guys play music and you can like intuit when something like feels right, when it's like actually harmonizing and things like this. Uh there's the same, for whatever reason, it works well with sound. Like, right, we all have it with sound. Even people that don't know music can and still like intuitively know like this sounds good, this sounds bad, whatever. There's a thing with like following our own life path that is very similar, where it's like there's a million ways where it's not right, and you can do a million things where it's like you're not doing the thing that's really for you. But when it's right, you just feel it and you just kind of know. And so like that's the internal like knowing that we're looking for inside of doing all this stuff. When you're jamming and it feels good. When you're with someone and you like being with them and you're like, I kind of want to keep being with this person,
That's
you
also
know
like jamming.
you were right, yeah.
It
And
is.
it's all, and like really that's kind of how we're supposed to operate the whole world, is like these just like intuitive like jam sessions and jazz like creations of everything. We've built a structure that doesn't facilitate that whatsoever. So recognizing that, we need to build the structure that facilitates us to just live freely like that.
Yeah, dude. The whole world just needs to be in one big jam session.
And it kind of is, though. Think about it.
It
I,
is.
I was thinking about this. Let me know your guys' thoughts. You see about these mechanisms that people have kind of figured out, that you can levitate objects with frequencies, and there's these tiny little speakers. And I thought at first, like, oh, they're just like all these frequencies are like levitating stuff. And then I started thinking back on my knowledge of speakers, and that the way you make music is just it's a drum moving air, and the way that air moves and hits your eardrum, that's what you hear. It's a note, it's a pitch. So is that object, you guys know what I'm talking about? One of the like levitating objects, like little tiny balls with little tiny speakers. Oh, we blasted this one frequency, dude, and it's a magic.
That guy levitated a bowling ball, dude.
Yeah, but okay, that's so cool. I'm not trying to take anything away from that,
You better
but
not.
it's a lot less cool than I thought it was. Is what I'm saying. I thought it was like, oh shit, frequencies. Like,
How about
it's some kind of energy, but they're just moving air
into that. Yeah, it's a lot more practical than you thought it was.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
And that's my point in this whole spiritual, all of this woo-woo shit, aliens, boot, whatever. It's a lot more practical than what we think it is if we're just willing to investigate it a little bit.
Bro.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, it's just air moving at a thing that is just has enough force to lift this. Yup.
That's exactly, that's the turmoil I've been going through, man. And that
we are just a collection of energy that has the potential to create energy inside of ourselves, or really I should say harness energy, gather energy, collected inside of ourselves in the form of a thought, in the form of an image, in the form of a vision, and then just focus our own energy on that, and then literally become a small biomechanical like machine that is then creating that energy and that feeling for ourselves. And then the world around us can't help but match that and mirror that because of the nature of these little harmonics that keep getting created. You can't be a note that is existing in one octave, right? And then not be in that octave, right? You have to be in that. You're in that one. You're not in the other one.
Quantumly locked.
Right, exactly. So when we start to like get ourselves to consistently vibrate frequency, tune ourselves in and be like, wait a minute, should I, I got a parking ticket today because I drove into the parking lot and I was like, I remember that this parking lot like a month ago, this machine wasn't working so you could park for free. And then it's like, that wasn't the case today. Did I actually lock into what was going on in that moment? Or did I project some idea from the past that was way more convenient for me? It was more convenient for me to believe that. So we're just doing that shit, all of it. And it's like, especially with what we're facing, we're just like, hey, yeah, whatever you can conveniently believe and just go on with, then just go on with it. And it's like, that's a dangerous practice, right? So the reality of it all is like a more haunting, holy shit, is the world seriously on fire? Like, yep, but it's great because like that's the nature of physical reality. It's all gonna burn to a crisp.
I think
enjoy it.
I think what we're talking about, I mean, dude, let me know if I'm way off, guys, but I think what we're talking about is again this journey of the all-seeing eye at the top, which is our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We look right, we look left, we try to figure shit out. We say, dude, that I vibrate with that, love that. Okay, cool. Then we look left. All right, let's try to combat that shit. Let's try to make a fifth out of that. Like it harmonizes in a way, but it's like totally in the middle. But it complements it. It's like, okay, cool. Now we're getting somewhere. And as soon as you feel like you're getting somewhere, you come back to center. You're like, actually, no, nothing fucking matters. And all we got to do is just love each other and just love yourself. And that's cool. That's enough.
And it's like, we're really moving as a collective. And there's a couple more points in that I think are still out there and interesting that I want to touch. But like, as we move through a collective, you can really make the argument right now that like we're moving through this idea of like post-nihilism, where we're like, God is dead, the world is purposeless, like inherently purposeless. And now we're coming to this point in like culturally where it's like, wait a minute, that means it's inherently purposeless, so we can give it our own purpose. And that's like the potential real beautiful place. And that's the condition that sets up a renaissance. And that's exactly what we're in. Like the medieval Renaissance was post the plague. Like we are in a place with like the booming internet, the age of Aquarius air stuff, however you want to look at it, technologically based or consciously based or spiritually or astrologically based, whatever. We have all the ingredients like to be on the precipice of like a renaissance. And that's what we're going to be. And like they've said, even in the past, I think the medieval Renaissance only truly lasted like 80 years. That was like with like the boom of the output of art and the building of buildings and all these like writing books is like it really only lasted 80 years or so. But then we carried on what was like made from that for hundreds. I mean, it shaped thought still to this day. We have all of our concepts of like romanticism from that. Like it's wild. We're on the precipice of a spiritual renaissance and like a creative and artistic renaissance that's like possibly multiple times, exponentially times bigger than that, just because of the level of people who have access to create things or to speak their own truth or whatever.
Yeah.
We've also got more consciousness on the planet than we've
There's
ever
just
had.
more, right? In that same imagery we made of like that pyramid hitting that point and like growing and expanding, we're just with each new layer, there's an exponentially more, right? There's more width at the base. So there's just more perspectives.
Yeah.
Huh. Do you think the new Renaissance period will be shorter?
Yes.
It'll be shorter than 80 years.
I think like 8 years.
Oh shit.
Dude, I have that exact same feeling. Like, yeah, like we're
I
on the cusp of something kind of big, whether it's like a
Yep.
technological revolution or a cultural,
So
like, whatever it is. I think it's gonna happen. And it's gonna be big, but it's gonna be so paradigm shifting for the world that it's not gonna last very long.
nope.
And we're gonna move on,
Yep.
but it's gonna be huge.
It's
So
gonna be like buying a really soft shirt. Like they only last one time in the wash, man. You only
you wear
get
it for
one.
4 or 5 days in a row, and it starts to get a little stiff, and then you're like, nope.
The
And
neck
then it's never the
stretches.
same. Yeah. I really see this window of time from, and it looks like 2022 is the real first year of this, and to about 2030. And I kind of was peering over. I'm looking for my books. I'm a little scattered in my personal life, so I have books in multiple places, in this city right now. So I don't think I have it with me, but I have a Nostradamus book that actually highlights one of the things on like its cover that they predicted was in 2029 a spiritual revolution.
Mm.
So take that with like whatever grain of Nostradamus salt. I think it's interesting. I read that way after I already had my timeline in mind.
Yeah.
I saw that and was like, shit, that's right in line. The next handful of years, there's this burst of creativity that's super like injected with spirituality and with consciousness and ideas. And then the sort of system that we're in just can't maintain with the level of art and things that's being put out. And we really start to build the structures for a new world, like the physical, tangible. We need a community center over here. We need such and such over here. That kind of stuff is that time. And it's like, that sucks to like it's 8 years away that we really start addressing some of the problems of the world. And it's like, I mean, the scales of these things are so big. Like we're talking about like the literal problems of the world and of our country. Like, yeah, 8 years would be great. Like really, for us to like take on homelessness and like hunger in real ways in this country.
Everyone's
Like,
just
yeah,
chilling for like
that.
8 years.
Hey,
Yeah,
Nice little reset.
Can I mention something pretty nuts? Like I feel like David Icke right now, but like 8. You guys keep mentioning 8. Like that's an octave, dude. That's the starting over. And we're talking about dissonance here. Like the moments of renaissance are a dissonance in music. And when the note resolves, it just feels fucking awesome. It just, oh my God, like you get tingles in your damn balls, dude. Like,
yeah,
it happens. Like we all know that. Oh man.
And we very much use these numbers in the, like, that's why numerology is a thing. Like we're using these numbers and these patterns and these like cycles purposefully, but just intuitively. It's going to become quite the world when we use these knowingly. We know and we understand why these cycles of 8 matter, why when we understand collectively how a young man develops consciously and physically and spiritually through this pattern of 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, we are going to change we're change the way, like this is the diverting too far from these causes things like massive crime, especially sexual fueled crime of like young men. It's like they're off of a path of development that their soul, their consciousness, their whole spirit kind of has been using for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And then we've created a culture over the last few hundred years that rips that away. And this is not to make an excuse for any individual, but it is to highlight that there is a collective cause of these problems that then crop up through the individuals. And we really can't, it's like you can't deal, if you got bad, crops, you don't deal with the individual plant, you go back to the soil, you go back to the seeds. It's like our soil is poisoned Our
Yeah, dude.
seeds are bad as a result. And the poisoning of this soil is just like we've diverted away from our own nature. We don't
Yeah.
understand it.
We
And we're
went from like
using ones and zeros instead, and we're trying to understand it through technology.
yeah. We
It
we went
sounds so
from
dumb when you say it. Sorry, Joe.
from going out on a spiritual journey to all of a sudden having to sit in a classroom for 18 plus years and then join this crazy fucking society that like just completely stresses you out 100% of the time.
And that's supposed to teach more to a kid than what a kid can learn by going out and sitting in the woods for a few days.
No.
What? Like,
Yeah.
but we talk about like that idea to society, and we were like, what is a kid gonna learn in the woods? Like, if this is 1994, and we're like, yeah, just go. I'm gonna go sit out in the woods with my son and just sit there.
That
and be
makes
quiet
sense.
for 8 hours a day. And we talk about that, and people are like, what are they gonna do? You know? But yeah. Like, it makes sense. And to me, intuitively, like that's a great way to teach a kid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Our consciousness is just collectively just coming along to these ideas. And this is why I say like collective consciousness is not a great, that's not where we should be getting our ideas from. It's like collective consciousness. We get our ideas from leading edge consciousness, which right now in our culture, we've made fringe and we've made weirdos. We made people like me where it's like, I fucking barely can function in the like real world, you know? I have to find such a specific like job and lot so that I can like be myself and still be it right. And it's like some of that is neurodivergent, sure, but some of it is like, no, bro, like I want to talk about this. And it's like I understand there's a benefit to all the mundane parts of life, you know, the old the mundane and the magical are root and branch from the same tree.
Yeah.
I get it. But like I don't want to talk to like about nothing over and over and over again.
Right.
But that is what it's the center of the bell curve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole population is the bell curve. The bubble of collective consciousness exists in that center 80%.
Yeah, dude.
So it's like it's unfortunate, but like
is it though?
That's
is
what we've made to be the thing. Not all cultures exist like that.
Is it unfortunate, or is that the beauty of the dissonant note?
See, and that's where I could also argue for the benefit of time in there too, where it's like,
fuck yeah, I mean, there would be no note without time. There would be no
and
resolution
really
without time.
Like I was saying at the beginning of this, like if we look at how particular and careful we really need to be about our consciousness, well, if we didn't have the delay and the benefit of time, then every fucking awful, weird, cruel, negative thought that I had, even as a flash where I go, whoa, that's bad. I create that right there in front of me. Oh, I fucking hope not. I'm not careful enough with my thoughts right now. So I want some delay in lag in time where it can go, no. Or I want to be a person that's like, man, you know, I was groundbreaking into like certain conspiracies and you know the mid 2000s, and I was like, this is definitely real. And then it's like, man, it's a good thing there's some delay in time before I can you know get a platform to speak about that, because that is garbage. But it took some time to realize it. So yeah, there's definitely, it's the double-edged sword of this whole thing. We live in a paradoxical place that has like our punishment, you know, we're prisoners here. And that's a great thing because we're not going to leave. So that means our only choice is to succeed. So like when we really truly realize that like we can like, you know, schleff off life as much as we want, but like, and lifetime after lifetime, we can do that. But like the only way to get out of this place is to like self-realize. That's it. And when you self-realize, you become, you know, you realize that full potential, you become your true self, then you actually can make a genuine impact on the world, an impact onto a software program that's running onto a hardware that we're all being projected into. But whatever, it's still, you know, there's a sandbox that you're putting up your own, building your own little thing in there, and it stays in the sandbox. For a
Yeah.
while.
That conversation's for the next time you come on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, happy to. Yeah, that's another part of it. And then that's part of what like you guys mentioned. I wrote this comic. That's part of what I'm trying to like go into, and that is like, hey, we're in a weird projection of consciousness. This is how it's all a trap, all fucked up, all weird. Timelines run everything. Our consciousness creates it all, but all of it essentially doesn't matter because it's really just about being a good person.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's
So
for sure. I love that comment that Tammy just made. How her oldest grandson, she paid him to stay in his treehouse all night long.
Oh wow!
And she was like, yeah. And he, even though it's just a treehouse, he learned bravery that night. It was one night in a treehouse, but like that's such a beautiful thing. Kind of going along with what we were talking about. A second ago. I think that's great, man. Whenever we go on like hikes or we're out in the desert somewhere, my wife will always ask me, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Absolutely nothing," because we'll walk for hours and I won't say a word. Like it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
We're like, I could just sit there and just stare. Like it's the greatest. It's like you're supposed to be there. Like my soul like yearns for like just being, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why I love those places. Like I love the desert. Absolutely love the desert. I'm a fan of the forest too, but I love the desert. And I don't know, there's just something like I get so like I love my hometown, I love my house, like I like all the people that are around and stuff, but damn, dude, like my soul like just needs to separate from everything, and I feel it all the time. It's like you just wish there was more time to do that. Like I can't just go sit in the desert. I got a baby and I gotta feed people's faces and like, you know what I'm saying? Like
and we can look at this, and you seem to have done a good job of like, our culture is a matrix, is a projection built on top of the natural world. And you can feel the difference of the natural world and the culture that we've built on top of it. And you've like done it properly as a human inside of this world, which is essentially a trap, right? Which is you've learned to find things and create things inside of your little personal trap bubble that you actually love. You love your house and your friend and all these things, but you know that your soul actually really feels connected when you disconnect from the construct that we've created and go back to the nature. Now, if only we could learn to live that construct without the construct and just build it onto nature.
Yeah.
We think that there needs to be this sort of elevated platform that we then build our buildings on, and these kinds of things that keep us a little separate from nature and a little protected. And it just keeps us unintegrated.
The feeling that you get when you lay down on some grass.
Yeah.
Like I don't like, like here at Barton Springs, right? You see everybody and they're laying on towels.
They got boobies out.
And like I get it, and their boobies are out. So it's also a good place. Connecting with nature, dude. Boobies are nature.
That's nature,
But the feeling of just laying on some grass or just walking outside in your front yard with no shoes on, like that feeling, dude, that energy is like,
and you're not concerned about getting some grass stains on your pants.
Yeah.
What I mean? It's
I don't care.
We've made all these things, but we've made all these things to like trip our brains up.
Yeah. Oh, but there's bugs in there. You could get chiggers or like, that's where they live. What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? They live in the grass. They were nice enough to let us hang out on it.
Right.
So what? I got a couple chigger bites. I'll get over it.
Yeah, they let you. That's their home, dude. You set your stink butt on their house, like
that comes back the same idea that like maybe a quarter of a million years ago, our species was stepped on by a giant and treated like ants. And until we fucking realize to not treat all the other things like the ants that they are and just like step on them, but actually learn how to like use it and integrate it. And it's like, why
Yeah.
would we be incorporated into a world like a galactic scale world where there's so many beautiful things going on and we're just this tiny little fleck? If
Yeah.
we can't build a world that doesn't even integrate like all of its people into it, like, you know, that seems to be the base level of, if we can make sure, like, you know, people aren't just undiagnosed neurodivergent 20 years ago, and then they grow up and now they're homeless and they're actually like, you know, they got an IQ of 160 something, but they just don't know how to do basic things because of undiagnosed autism, and now they're dying in the street. And like,
Right. Yeah.
that's the reality that we live in.
Dude,
that,
I for the past, man, I would say maybe like the past 4 years, I've had this weird thing happen to me where like I specifically remember it too. Like I was walking down the street and I heard a crunch and I was like, what the hell? And I looked down and I stepped on a snail. And
oh yeah,
for some reason, dude, it like hit me like hard, like in the feels. Like I'd never had that feeling before. And like I was like, what the fuck? And you know, like some time went by, you know, there'd be bugs in the house, whatever, and I'd swat them. And I would get this like terrible feeling, you know, and you're like, it's just a bug. But for some reason, and now it like drives my wife crazy because like there will be like a wasp in the house or something, and I'm sitting there with like trying to like get with like a cup and just like let him outside. I'm like, because he didn't mean to be here, you know. He doesn't have to die just because you know he came here, or like I'll be sitting outside and like a tree bug or something will like fly and like it'll land on me, and usually I would freak out and like try to squash it and slap it, and now I'll kind of like I'll take a deep breath and I'll just kind of like maybe nudge it off of me. I don't want to touch it, but it's like I have this sense, this feeling of like just like getting over that, and like, well, you know, this isn't intentional. They're not intentionally harming you or trying to like go kill you and your family. It's just a bug, you know? And like, I don't know. It's like this crazy thing that like
it's the branding.
I know.
The stink bug, the tree bug you're talking about, it's a very common species of beetle, I believe, and it's called a stink bug.
Yeah.
And they don't actually like, they don't do shit, dude. They're so chill. Like,
and the reason they stink is because you kill them.
Yeah. Don't kill them. Just move them. Even when we had like spiders, dude, like we lived in wilderness in Georgetown here. Like, dude, I was like, babe, I've got to do something about these spiders. Like, we go out there, bro. Like, I'm talking Harry Potter size like spiders, dude. They talked at me in a very low accent, very very deep and British accent. And I just moved. We just move them because, you know, like maybe 5 years ago, I would not have done. I would have killed that bitch. Yeah. But after I've been into this kind of stuff we're talking about, like I just move them to a different place. Like, hey, yo, go hunt over here, dude. Like, there's other houses.
I'll kill the shit out of a mosquito, man. I don't even play with those things.
Fuck mosquitoes, dude.
Isn't that funny? That's the one that I draw the line. It's like, nope, it's a parasite. Nope, I don't. I'll still brush off when I can, but this summer in particular, I was living alone in like a very like, there's like a little wooded patch, and I was getting a lot of bugs in, and I was just like, man, I'm doing so good. I spent 2 hours one night grabbing like 20 flies and just like, okay, this is awful. Why am I doing out? And then I just, that night I was like, woke up and there's just a mosquito like on my chest. And I was just like, you know what? And I lined it up and flicked it off. And like, I'm gonna pay some karmic price for that. I'll get that, and that's fine.
I just pictured like the universe was tempting you because they were like, "Hey, you're doing really fucking good, man. You were doing all the right things, but we're gonna send a mosquito to literally try to suck the blood out of the tip of your nipple and just see what you do."
Like, you know what? I have a line. I have a line. There it is.
I think that's okay, you know?
Yeah, no, it's good. That
Yeah.
I loved that concept. I was a person who grew up as like a perpetual people pleaser. I love the concept of like learning about boundaries, which is can be such like a like a just like a bad. It's boring. It's awful, and it's like painful, and it's like, oh man, I've crossed everybody's boundaries that I've ever met, haven't I? Great, but
Yes.
it's like really learning boundaries, and you learn that like it's the things you say no to that actually define you, because
Yeah.
it's your edges that actually create the boundaries, and it's like, oh well, that's kind of cool. And I guess
Yeah.
maybe I could be a little bit more responsible with myself sometimes, you know.
Yes, man.
Yeah,
Dude, so I cannot believe it's already been 2 hours, but I want to get into this a little bit.
sure.
We had talked about how the things around you, um, eh, there's an explanation for it, right? Like there's a very reasonable explanation. We just
Oh
haven't
yeah,
really figured it out yet. So I want to get into this. Aliens.
sure.
Let's talk about aliens.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
So, the one is this idea that I think was really popular last summer, that it seemed to like die down a bit, that we were gonna like experience some mass contact or something like that. I was like, I don't think that that's likely or ever gonna happen, and it's got nothing to do with the idea that like maybe things don't exist. I think it's like quite the opposite exactly. It's like there's so many things in so many species and interactions out there, and it is actually happening, but it won't happen in the way that like pop culture ever personified it to, because that's just not how the mechanisms of reality work. You
Right, right.
can't have a physical external experience like that proves a concept like that to a whole set of people. It would have to be an experience that validates an existing belief. That's in alignment with like the mechanisms of the universe, but a
Yeah.
proving experience is not. Remember, like this comes from like I wrote about in that comic, everything is self-fulfilling prophecies. They're not like you don't self-create a prophecy that disproves you, unless what you're asking for is like the actual answer, the actual information, or whatever. So we're not going to get like with this attitude of like, we're here, we're alone, whatever. We're not going to get this. We're never going to get this Independence Day thing where like they come and blow it up or whatever, or the Mars attacks version or whatever. But there also isn't going to be this like large scale, we come in peace thing, right?
Yeah.
Which movie is sexier, Independence Day or Mars Attacks?
It's Will Smith. Oh, see, that is tough though.
Yeah.
His wife is very hot. She also
you
Mars
got-
Attacks
You got
ladies
Pierce
very hot.
Brosnan in there.
Yeah.
Both ladies, both Will Smith's wife very hot.
And you got the 1950s like pinup doll motif.
Yeah.
house
You got that whole atomic era thing going
yeah,
on.
Yes.
which is like there's something weird in like I don't know if they used like the Fibonacci spiral to biologically. There's something about all men are like, nope, I actually agree with that. Maybe it's just all white guys. I don't know. I hope it's not that.
There's
But
some
there's
there's some
something about
group
that.
of dudes like
Yeah, you've all like collectively like thumbed up the whole like that whole motif. I don't know.
I think it's the 50s bra that's the pointy bra.
I think it might be. It really. It's
And Mars
just we're
Attacks.
that simple of creatures that we're like, I don't know. Maybe that's more efficient of a way. They're pointing at.
I mean, it's a cone, man.
yeah, like a pyramid. It'd be easy. Yeah, we're all disgusting and dumb. And like,
Madonna
we
was a
pretend-
huge hit.
Right. We pretend we're like, let's hang out and talk about consciousness, guys. And it's like we're all fueled by sex and
Yes.
taboos, and like that's
which
whatever.
which kind of harkens back to backstage what we were talking about. Like,
It's it's not that different in any other plane of existence. Exactly what we said earlier. Like,
Yeah.
as above, so below, all these things. Like, we get this, we have, and this is like where I lose a lot of this modern day spirituality, and but talks about some really out there cool concepts, like this notion of there being some galactic federation that is this conglomerate of all these enhanced, enlightened species from higher dimensions and higher realities from all across the galaxy, and maybe even other galaxies into Andromeda, and they look over people and planets and species and help them evolve. Like, that's a beautiful thing. If you think that they're so if that does exist, and you think that they're so pure and enlightened and all this bullshit, then like you probably assume that about our own government, and that's obviously not the case, right?
Yeah. No.
It's the same thing. It's just corruption and politics, and somebody with the, my name's Commander Ashtar and I am the leader of whatever group. You're not
Wait,
here.
Can
right?
can I just like emphasize what you just said?
Sure.
Is that because I 100% align on that. Like the same type of mind, the same type of person. And I'm not like, trying to be mean here, but
No.
it's this black or white thing where like almost like the halo effect where like our government officials can't possibly think about sex. They can't possibly pay for
Right.
prostitutes.
Right.
No way.
Even though I watched a video about how Ted Cruz said at 20 years old that one day he wants to hopefully take over the world, he was just joking. He's not actually driven by any kind of narcissistic thought like that, even a little bit. What are we talking about? Like, okay, so this is the point of it. This is like the point of like where I think it's like becomes this huge disassociation, is that we literally want to remove it. And this is like where also dogma comes from, and like religion of like looking to like God in some seat at the throne or whatever. And I mean like an anthropomorphized, like, bearded white man God, not like a Taoist or Buddhist, like God is everything.
Dude ate good. He chilled.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, like, this guy that's going to eventually solve all of our problems, right? Just like Papa Government will eventually solve all of our problems. Well, the aliens one day will come and solve all of our problems.
Yeah,
It's
nope. Because
that's
like
never going to be how it works ever on any level. It's never been. Did your teachers solve your problems? Did your parents solve your problems? No, you did.
They told us how. They told us how to, but they didn't solve any of our problems. They told us
and
how
sometimes
we should.
they told us how to, and they told us the wrong methods because they didn't really know, because they actually had those problems and then projected them into us. And so we've had a whole culture that's done that. And now we still have this removed thing. And so whether it's God, the government, or aliens, we have this idea that something removed from us is going to save us.
Yeah.
All the real aliens are here. All the real ones that are really, truly, genuinely here to help humanity are humans. We're all here. We all took on the same plight as the rest of humanity. And that's what I said earlier about like this idea. I don't actually remember if we were recording or not yet. This idea that like about half of the species or about half of our population is just like new souls, new consciousness. It's basically the idea of taking a number and adding another digit onto the back of it, after the decimal place. You have a new number there, right? That's a new conscious. It's really just an expression of expansion. But that's what new consciousness is. As this pyramid from the origin point spreads and spreads and spreads, it's just more nuance that is created, more nuance of perspective. And it's a great thing, but that's what we're full of right now, is this nuance of perspective. And we got to come back to these like core principles and core truths of like reality is this very mirrored principle effect thing, and
Yeah.
we can't ever be saved by something outside of us. So this notion of like looking up to aliens, one, it's like I don't want to discredit anything that actually like experiences too, because like I'm also like a huge believer. I've had contact experiences myself. I'm pretty sure I had contact experiences when I was like young, but I like had real interact, like what do they call it, close encounter of the fifth kind experience with a multi-dimensional, a higher dimensional, density like entities. That stuff is so real, but they're not there to save us. They are there to help inform us, because there is a mutual benefit happening. As we evolve, they evolve. As they evolve, they can shine more light to us, and we can, because it's the whole, they stopped our evolution. So
and to expand on that too, right? I mean, you even if you were to meet a whole new species of aliens, right? Not only will they have that, that parental suggestion of like, what maybe you should do, but they're also going to unlock a whole new set of problems you didn't even know existed.
And this is where I want to get to, like, we kind of alluded to it earlier, but like if anybody's still hanging on or listening to us at this point, like, great. Human beings in this grand scale are so specific and so important. And that's not to say that everything isn't important, but I'm like, we specifically have this ability that's unique to us. And I don't understand that, like, what it is completely. And that's a little like, we're in that old phrase, like, you can't see the forest for the trees. It's like, we're all humans and we all have these things that are normal, but it's like, I can't really put my finger on what it is, even with having some intuitive connection to it. From what I understand, it's the concept loosely of empathy. Is that, are there really other beings that can, or are there like these other species of whatever things, can they, in the way that we really can, step into someone else's shoes figuratively like that? Like you and I, you could tell me, like, Ben, you could tell me my story, and it could bring me potentially something in life, you know what I mean? It's like we can connect and tell stories like that are so like meaningful and important. That is the human thing, that level of like care and empathy. And that's only understood by being human. And I know this is getting weird for maybe some people, but like, that's what I mean by like the real ones that are here to help humanity are here by being human. Now they're connected to whoever and whatever in their own, worlds. Imagine like whole universes behind that are unique to me, because your higher consciousness didn't travel the place that mine has, right? You went to your own places. So like there's a whole sections of the universe unique to my perspective behind this part of me. But what comes through is just this uniquely, individualized part of the self here.
Yeah.
I kind of want to add there, Joe, is like, this might not come to a lot of surprise of most of our listeners, but I took psilocybin mushrooms for the first time. I mean, like when I was like, like 20. And then it was awesome. And I had this moment of like figuring stuff out. There was this moment of like, this is why that is. This is why everything just made sense. I felt so fucking smart, dude. Like hubrisly fucking smart. I felt so powerful. And then like a month later, I just had this ego death of like, and I know I've seen a video of yours, Joe, about this. Maybe not the same experience, but then, man, like a couple years later, I did it again with the same group of friends.
Mhm.
a couple of different people, and I was looking forward to the experience of the camaraderie of friends and like, hey, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be so awesome. I'm gonna like connect with nature, because all of it was like, dude, we are one with the earth. It like is beautiful. That was my first experience, and the second experience, I had these expectations, and the message that I got was so clear. Like it was if the earth and the ether were speaking to me.
Yeah.
I could almost hear the damn words, dude. And I was so disappointed by these words, but also like, hey, it's fine. Okay, I understand it. And those words were, dude, just not verbatim,
Right.
but
The
the
universe
Planet
is
Earth's
like,
like, dude, bro.
hey.
Yeah. Bro, sucks, bro,
Hey,
right?
dude, yeah.
Yeah. No, but what was
Hold
that
on.
deep message you got?
The message was, don't seek change. Continue with what you are doing. Do not seek anything that you think that you're not capable of. That was the idea. Like,
Yeah.
you're not, like, we aren't here to seek something that we're not capable of. Like, not to say, hey, you can't fly. Okay. Well, prove that wrong. Okay. The idea was that I received, and it's so hard. I rarely speak about this, man. Like, this is why it's so, I'm struggling
Yeah.
here. But if you can relate in any way, the idea was kind of a letdown. It was like, I'm waiting for this. Hey, last time I met you, this consciousness, that I consumed, and I just had such a great time. I just figured out. I felt like I figured out the universe, and
Yeah.
now I'm at level 2 now, dude. And now level 2, I'm looking for level 3. Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
And the
And
answer that I
turns
got
out
was,
it sucks.
hey, well, it
Yeah.
wasn't nihilist in that way. It wasn't
No.
like, not to say what you said was nihilist, but like,
Right. But that's what I mean about like us being kind of collectively in a post-nihilistic idea
Yeah.
in this collective.
It's
is
almost
that
like
we've
sorry.
moved past the point of it sucks.
it
Yeah.
just all it says is like, dude, you're fine. Stop
Yeah.
worrying about, just do
It just
it.
is.
Have fucking fun. Dance
Yeah.
naked in the rain, in the mud, man. Get your ass dirty. Poop in the wilderness. No pants, bro.
Yeah.
No pants. Let's go.
It's almost like when you find out like you're gonna die someday, and you kind of like think about it for a while, and then you're like, all right, like there's nothing I can do about this. I'm eventually gonna die someday, right? Which you would
Right.
think is like maybe not a cool message, but then if after this is awesome, it is a cool message. You just have to wait for
Right.
it.
See, I love
And-
that, Joe, but I also love the flip side, and the mirror image of that is like, I love knowing that nothing matters, so I could just say whatever the fuck I want now, and just be myself now.
Yeah.
Like, what? Just be yourself now. Like, we're all gonna die, dude. Like,
And
Yeah, dude.
I think that that's part of this whole, because remember you said earlier, like when we're talking about this binary thing and we're laying out this idea of this puzzle, but it's not just 2 dimensions, right? It's not just your piece flipped over and down. Like we're all multifaceted and all of these different aspects of it. Sure, it's like but like we're trying to find a balance point in all of these things where like it doesn't matter, but I also want to do things that I care about. But what I really care about is just enjoying shit. And what I enjoy is this very specific thing, not everything. So it's like it really does come a point where it's like I can see it conceptually that if like we really were all kind of like hitting this point of where like I'm totally embracing that it doesn't matter, but that also I'm free to do whatever so I can kind of explore all of the things that I love without really being worried about the repercussions if I'm being genuine to myself, right? All these things. Like if we all can hit that, then this place becomes something else.
it becomes a party, dude.
Right. We don't need to worry about changing it. We only need to realize our own self. It goes back to that self-realizing thing. If we all do that for ourselves, it will naturally turn into that giant party. right? And that's like
Dude, I love that so much.
Yeah.
that's the
I
job.
I think of like, can I make a full circle here?
Sure.
We're talking about jamming, dude. Jamming doesn't start with the group. It starts with yourself. It starts with you being open and saying, look, I don't have to know the scales. I don't have to know the song. Somebody being vulnerable enough to make, hey, this is what I've been working on. This is a cool thing. Let me start this shit. And it's like maybe 3 or 4 chords. Or maybe it's the drummer that starts, hey, I've got this cool rhythm. Or maybe it's the bass player. It's putting yourself out there, being yourself, and having everybody join in and say, I vibrate with that. I love that. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's jam, dude.
Yeah.
And that's like where somebody would be like, hey, are we talking about like us all drink the Kool-Aid? No, dude. I'm here to eat the ham sandwiches, the mini triangle-shaped ham sandwiches, and we're here to jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And float around.
Oh, dude.
What do you want? What do you want at this moment? And it's like that when we think about that, when we talk about that, man, it's like that doesn't feel that far away. But then it's like, well, shit, what do I do right now, though? You know, and we miss this connection. It was like, I love that as an idea. I don't know. It's like, I'm going to, go drive to make a few bucks after this. You know what I mean? And it's like
what do you do after the concert? Like, what do you do after,
exactly.
after that? Yeah.
And it's like what we really have is like a world that's mostly those moments in between. And that's the sort of like what I would call like maybe the equivalent realization that you're talking about of this like post, this second wave. Because I had a similar, experience the first time I took psilocybin. I was like, oh my, like God is literally everything. That was the thing that I walked away with. And then the next big time I took it, I just went, oh shit, everybody doesn't get this. And then it was just like 4 hours of like, yeah, the whole world doesn't understand what you understand now. Do you get that? You just forced yourself into being in like a separate part of humanity, maybe forever. And I was just like, okay, all right, yeah, this is
awesome.
But it's like it's like because that's what this whole thing is. It's like it's not all light and fun and games until you realize that, and then you realize that it's not all fun and games, and then that can become the fun and games. And that's what we need to get to collectively, is that we see that the work of fixing the world becomes the game. And then we can have fun actually fixing the world. But it's like, I think we need to finish breaking it first. Like, honestly, I don't think we're done breaking it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we got about 6 months, though, and I don't think it's going to last for that, man.
Oh,
6
man.
even seems like a lot right now. It's 4. I don't know, man. This Maxwell case, this Ghislaine Maxwell case, that's got all of the mixing to truly break society as we know it. Before it even, did you see the document that came out before it even started that implemented Bill Clinton, Jay-Z, Epstein, Trump, Biden, all in one document, all with like, here's the freaking price we'll pay for a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, if people really don't get too afraid of the shadow and are willing to really look at this and go, no, this is fucking real, it's going to break society.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Hopefully.
And we have to find a way, like, if this comes out to be what we kind of all think it is, right? But we're going to have to combat that the anti-conspiratorial people, like, oh, it's just such a conspiracy. And it's like, dude, like, they're fucking little kids. Can we hop on the same train for this, please?
If
and move
is
on.
The reason we can all join together.
Yeah, right.
It's the fucking reason, dude.
To save kids.
But that's why this is becoming such a thing. And that's why there's going to be money thrown at and that's what I really mean. I've been looking at this and I've had talks with friends. I've talked to my oracle about it, like all of these kinds of from the most practical to the most spiritual people I've all talked to about it. And like, we've been whispering about this since like early to mid-July, that this notion of, if it really, really comes out, that how steeped Hollywood is into this whole ring of like, and that it's
Careful.
a real thing, right? Yeah, exactly. It's a real thing, which is like, that's mind blowing. That it's like, this is real, and we can't even really talk about it because maybe
It sucks that I had to even say careful. Like, I fucking hate that, dude.
And that's wild. But like, we should really realize that it's so sketchy and dangerous. Why?
Because it's like, you can't even say that on YouTube, dude. People,
right?
if
and
you say the
that
word,
on YouTube
dude,
own X, Y, and Z, own this and own this, and it's like, is it? No way we've created a world where it's really all this web of a handful of people with a bunch of money who might be just plucking people out of their bedrooms to do whatever. And yeah, no, it's
it makes you wonder who's really doing these abductions. I mean, if we want to go that route, if anybody, that's the most terrifying thing. I mean, if we're talking about like,
yeah,
dude, come on, what would if you were if you had the most money in the world and your name wasn't on that list? Because there's people that have way more money than those guys that are on the internet list. Like, come on.
yeah,
Are you kidding me? Like, oh yeah, no. I have more money than anybody in the world, and I'm totally gonna be on the list so people know about me.
Yeah.
No, fucking no, you're not. No, you're not.
It's even crazy because
not on that list, dude.
If you look at like Forbes, the richest man in the world, you're like, that's not the fucking richest man in the world. He wouldn't be in a magazine. You shitting me?
Exactly. Those are all the richest people that are public facing that don't pay. Those are second, maybe even third tier people in all that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to this whole thing, like the Jeffrey there, he was like a tiny part player. Pawn. He was, what I equated it to, he was the concierge at the restaurant, right? At the hotel. He was doing nothing more than greeting people at the front door and walking them to the room. Yeah. What's really going on back there? You're not even talking. That's the main restaurant. What's going on then in the VIP rooms in the back of the building? It's not it's not. It's just that like the world has been built on culture has been built on occultism. That's it. It goes back thousands of years, but we built the Holy Roman Empire was a cult, and it just built on mass ceremonies that have actually taken root on our world. And it's problematic, not because that something like that was always going to happen, but inside of their philosophy is the truth. Like the genuine truth of evolution and of expansion, of this idea of each person being a trinity of themselves, of part of the whole, part of an individual, and also the ability to connect to those things is essentially the Holy Trinity, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all that. So we weave the truth of reality and of consciousness and of existence and of like the second coming, which is just collective awakening and collective consciousness evolution, like is woven into a thing, a concept that's also specifically being used to mass manipulate and control the population of like half the world.
Yeah.
That's an insane. It's the same thing as like weaving in conspiracy theories into cartoons, but they're actually true.
Yeah.
And but people see them and then they're like, oh, it's fiction because it's on Scooby-Doo.
And we have to also like we have to break this cycle of like I'm just throwing out examples, right? Like we all kind of have a part in this evil and don't even realize it, right? And as like the average consumer person who's just trying to live their day-to-day life, right? like you don't want to believe Michael Jackson touched a kid, right? Because you
course not.
love his music. Thriller
Right.
was a hit album. You had a red jacket and some white gloves, and you fucking jam
Yeah.
that album all the time. You don't want to believe that, you don't want to believe Jay-Z's a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to be big pimping. Like
Mhm.
Jay-Z's the man, and so there's so many things that like you're attached to. Like I wear Nikes all the time. Like there's certain things that you like attach yourself to that kind of brand you the way that you are like on the outside, but then
Mhm.
you realize that damn, there's a lot of stuff that you like that's like created by like some fucked up people, and then you have to step back and be like, well, I mean, if a Michael Jackson song comes on, I'm still gonna listen to it, right? And you're like, oh yeah, you are bad.
Part of this,
Nice, dude.
part of it, that was it. Part of this, like, eventually will come full circle where really the key of it, we got to learn how to show compassion all around, right? To that
Yeah.
same degree, when I think of like maybe one day I can buy a nice fancy car, I don't put myself in a Mercedes because I know that they built cars for Hitler and I don't really like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I'm willing to come full around and be compassionate about that, but like maybe I just don't want that symbolism carried with me forward, right? So it's like we got to find the balance and all that in the right way, to go about those things.
I think part of it is just realizing that with great, I guess, progress, there's always going to be something evil attached to it.
Right. And
I think that's just the trend, and we just got to accept that that's a thing. Like nobody's like, "Hey, dude, great job, you're doing so great," and that person comes out to be like, "Oh, I've gotten all this like great support from everybody around me. I'm actually shit. I'm gonna give up. I got it.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good. I got it all."
And if that person, the Michael Jackson did those things because he was hurt. He was wounded himself.
Mhm.
And when
Yes.
we
He had a
really
very-
understand that, that's when we can look back at
Yeah.
be like and have the compassion for those things. We can look at a person like R. Kelly and be like, holy shit, that
dude was
level of
hurt.
abuse is crazy. The level of abuse he received, he was so hurt. So it's like
doesn't like make the things he did okay.
no,
but we're
that's
breaking
where it
down
comes
like
back
why,
to.
right?
It's like this is it's like self individual response. It's like it comes back to that same thing where it's like you guys know I'm talking about polyamory and this. It's okay, but it comes back to this what is traditionally a very conservative idea of individual responsibility. It's that yes, everybody abused you and you were hurt and you don't know any better. Yep. At some point, you do need to grow up. And that growing up means being your own parent, regardless of the level of abuse you've taken on. And that isn't fair to some people. It's genuinely not fair. And this is karma, and it's cold. And sorry, kid, life's not fair. That's a cold, cold, cold statement. And it comes from the root of that statement is karma, where it's just like it is what it is, dude. It's the mechanisms of the universe don't care that you're a good person. They care that you put in inputs X, Y, and Z, junk food and high sugar soda, and never exercised, and then you got output overweight. Like it doesn't care that you were kind the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like there's a level, and like we hear that and we're like, well, that's not nice. And we're like, yeah, I know, but use both to your benefit. Use the I can be nice, but also I can put the good inputs in and get the good output. I can do both things. We have to all do the both things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah, when we can do that, we can look back and we can have compassion for a person that's been abused and then abused themselves. But we also don't have to like carry it for we can still celebrate
Yeah.
for what it is from an informed point of view, where we
Yeah.
don't go, man, they were really great. When we go, ooh, that song's a guilty little player. What? It's good that he did have some gems come out of all that abusive things, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, that sounds silly, but it's like we get to that out of necessity when we truly understand what darkness and what evil is. And
Yeah.
when we really understand what evil is, I mean, this comes from I say that word. It's a weird word to me, like evil, really. And I say that, and I'm a person who, if you would have talked to me about this 2 years ago, I would have said evil's a concept and it's not real, and it's a make believe concept in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking realer than real.
Yeah.
And what the part of it that is related to our minds is that, just like we said before, energy can't be created or destroyed. When we have these weird, dark thoughts, like everybody does, that energy goes to a place. And it's mostly just thought form. And it just compiles in a dark, messy amalgamation of dark thought form. And that you can generally call evil. It's just like a sludge that exists inside of our universe on like the ethereal level, because disconnected parts of the universe, us, have dark thoughts and we don't know what it is, and it produces like a bile, and that bile then contaminates the water and causes a blackness over our third eye, which then we lose sight of our real connection and we end up taking like criminal actions, which then more.
I think a term that most people are starting to understand what you're talking about, Joe, is the zeitgeist.
Sure.
It's the collective consciousness, and it can be very, very evil, and it can be very beautiful.
Sure.
But here's my question to you guys, and I always like to leave our show. We're getting close to the end here.
I've got one more question for you guys too before we leave.
Yeah, well, I just want to say this one thing, man, is that there is no good without evil.
Binary.
And there is no evil without good.
Right.
So we have to have our references. I'm not saying that we need these things that we are appalled by. It really does put things in perspective when you kind of think like, oh shit, do we need this?
Right.
Do we really need this, dude? Do we? Do we need this to have the equal and opposite amount of good? I don't know.
So that kind of leads into kind of what I was going to say. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this, and it sounds a little fucked up, but there's a beautiful part to the end of it. Have y'all ever sat there and genuinely like thought of the most fucked up shit like that you could do? Like, not just like a thought coming into your head and you're like, well, that was weird, but like thought of like, what's the most evil thing that I could be capable of? And I'll do that. I've done this like 5 times over like a span of years.
Every time I would go to church, I would think
it's like it's like a 30-minute thing, and it's almost like a weird form of meditation where like I will put myself in a scary, dark frame of mind and think of just the most evil shit. And then when I come out of it, I'm like, like I consciously understand what evil like I am now capable of. And it's almost like an awareness where I've brought this to the forefront of my mind, and now I'm conscious of it and I'm aware. So when I start getting a vibe of like, you're just being a dick right now, like you're like, oh, that's the beginning to like this evil shit that I was like projecting in my mind. And I do it, I guess, to see how far like I can actually push the boundaries, because you know, in your mind, you know, it's not a physical thing. Um, and I don't know, is it okay to do? I don't think it's not okay to do, but at the same time, it's kind of a learning a learning thing where you understand yourself and your own capabilities, and to understand that helps you avoid those instances
Mhm.
and become a better person. But you know,
So
Bro.
from what I like, from what you just described, that's a stoic meditation inside the philosophy of stoicism, you know, practiced by, you know, or Marcus Aurelius and all of these, you know, Roman uh thought leaders. That is a process in stoicism.
really.
Explore your darkest sides. Yes, especially for leaders, especially for people who are going to go into battle, in a war, for anybody that wanted to run a business, for people if you wanted to run a like have a family. Oh my god, like every man that has to have a family, what would you do for your child? Who would you rip apart with your bare hands for your kid? So like that's a very intense and aggressive thought. And it's like two things can happen, right? And we'll play the two extremes. One, you do this as a meditation. You spend a half an hour going, what am I truly capable of? What could I do? What I'm not a harmless individual, am I? I am a person with demons and beasts and dragons and things inside of me. And I could either pretend that that doesn't exist and pretend that I have. And like, this is the criticism that the right wing politics has against like the left wing, like liberal idea of a man. And it's like, okay, well, too much, whatever. But like, also, yeah, you're not wrong in some of this. Is that typical image? It's like that's a person that doesn't want to explore their dark sides. They
Yeah.
want this imagery of like I'm a harmless man. You know, the controversial person that he is. I don't think he's got any reason to be controversial.
Right.
Jordan Peterson, right, talks about like this notion of like being a harmless guy, right? And it's like it's a dangerous thing because what it really is that you never really understand how dangerous you are, and so you by accident cause a bunch of damage in your life, and then when you really go and you go, wow, am I really just like a snap away from murdering everybody in this room? Oh, I could.
Yeah, dude.
I really could. Give me the right motivation. Put the right woman, the right kid, the right thing in the right ideal. Really,
like-
if I was a good man, the right
Yeah.
ideal in this room, and I'd kill everybody because.
But
Yeah.
like that's funny. The way you're saying it is really funny, but
Yeah.
it's real, bro. Like
Yeah.
if you bottle shit up, dude, like that's why some people go fucking crazy and like drown people. You
Yeah.
know, like
I've
let's learn from history and that you're speaking truth here. Both of you
I've
guys.
decided that if anybody ever like hurt my child in like a way, I will go to prison for the rest of my
Yeah.
life,
Yep.
and I
Right.
will be
And you're
okay
just
with
I don't
like,
it.
give a
fine
shit.
with it. Yep. And you're
And
just
'cause
like, and you'd roll into prison and you'd be like, guess what I did?
I'm
Guess
wearing my
what I did?
I'm wearing
I
my
would be
Dan
proud of it.
Flashes t-shirt, dude.
'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
It's gonna hurt. It's gonna
So-
hurt, and it's gonna take a long time.
When we really go in and we explore that dark cave of ourselves, we see that little bit of aggression, that little bit of sharpness to a tongue, that, you know, being short in public or with a stranger or something like that is that monster's tail. I don't want to touch anybody with that tail. I feel so bad because I'm not afraid of that beast, but I know what that beast is capable of.
Yeah.
And because of that, if I'm going outside, please be in the cage. Please stay in the cage. Please, I am the master here. Versus, oh no, I'm just a harmless guy. Oh, you cut me off in traffic, and now all of a sudden I'm lashing out and having this big right and thinking about it. It's like, dude, no. Truly and this is like this call of like, be a man and realize who you are, and that being a man makes you never want to prove your manhood in front of them because you know it's not worth it. There's a handful of things worth dying for, and it's never because some guy was rude to me in public.
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
If
It's
you listen,
kids,
Yep.
ideals, women, principles, my community, family. That's it. That's it.
if you listen to any professional fighter,
Yeah.
they always say, I pray to God I never get into an argument where I
Right.
have to get physical.
Right. Yeah. Could you imagine somebody like that, or whatever? Yeah. And
But I feel like you don't
somebody
have
comes
to
up to
be
John
you,
Paul Jones and pushes him, and like, yeah, man.
but
what do
like you I don't feel like, I think that isn't that thought, that train of thought. I don't know. I'm sure other people have talked about this same exact thing. I'm not coming up
Right.
with anything new, man. I'm just like riffing off what you're saying, but like that type of thinking doesn't need to be somebody who knows what they're doing. I think it should apply to every dude. Like if you're in traffic, man, and somebody quote unquote wrongs you, you are looking for a fight. And
Yeah.
if you were a man, in my opinion, in my book, dude, and I think in all of our books, if you're a man, you don't go looking for a fight.
No, never.
Never look for a fight, dude. That
So-
is a true man. You
I-
protect your family. You
Right.
prevent harm. You don't cause harm.
I like this, and maybe this is a good place to leave it. Is sort of like we started with like my own path into aliens became this indigenous, thing, and I was talking with a friend about this, like manhood, and it's a little idealistic of me, but I've sort of come to this conclusion about what I believe this culture was before like colonialization hit it. It's like, because we know there were obviously like still fighting and wars happening here, right? But we also know that like the big sort of like we took tenets for our like constitution and the way that we set up our political system from what largely like the Cherokee Nation and Collective was doing when we got here. They had this whole system of basically like three-pronged system, and that was all running checks and balances on each other. And behind that, in addition, we never made it part of the American political system, were like female elders that all kept things in check, right? So they had a very sophisticated, very intuitive and grounded system of this, but they still had wars and fighting and like, things like this. And I went, well, from what I understand, there were like maybe like Tibetan monk kind of things that were in some sort of astral contact or something like this, and they themselves were maybe in contact with stars or whatever. There was some sort of enlightenment happening here in a really collective scale, but why was there still fighting? And this brought in this conversation I was having with this friend about like what it means to be a man and what it means to fight for. And I hypothesized that these indigenous cultures were fighting over ideals. And it would get to a point in their progression or whatever, their society, where they would just get to a disagreement about how to handle a big idea. What do we do with children? What do we do about, how do we handle this? And then they started to separate. Well, we think this. And then they discussed. And then they negotiated. And then they diplomatized or whatever. And then it got to a point where we say, hey, the implications of what we're talking about affect generations. And I believe this. And I understand that you believe that. But I'm not willing to budge any further than I've already budged. We've come to a head and we can't compromise any longer. I believe, me as this man of the tribe, I believe in this ideal, and as this leader of the tribe specifically. I've already gone on my journey, lost myself, come back. I'm living my life for the tribe. I believe in this ideal so much that I'm willing to die for it. And I'm willing to ask the gods and the ancestors if they believe that I'm correct, if they're supporting this idea, back me and this tribe. and then you support a different thought and a different ideal. We fight for it, and the winners of that fight say, then this must be the proper idea. And this is the idea that we should all collectively move forward on. And then before we start the battle, we check in with the women. Hey, is this worth dying over? And they go, I don't know. Let's come back to the hut for a minute. You tell me, is this worth dying over? And then we go, shit, I think it's, yep, that was nice, but I am worried about my grandson's grandson. And so I need to go fight for this idea.
It's like anytime me and Joe make plans.
Yeah, right.
Like, hey, we're gonna go to like we were gonna go to New Mexico, Roswell, and I was like, babe, I'm talking to my wife, we have a newborn baby, and she was like, no, you can't, like,
it's not worth it.
She's very.
Yeah, and then you look at that, and you can look back a year, and you go, "Oh, she's right. Yeah, she was definitely right. Yeah, that's
exactly. Yeah, but
yeah.
I was telling Joe, I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm the man of the house, dude. I got it, dude."
Yeah, no, yeah, and it comes back to we are, and we're willing to die for those ideals. Up until you go, but really, would you rather just stay in bed? And you go, yeah, you know what? I'd rather stay in bed. Yeah.
It was actually a great weekend. I know, Joe, I'm sorry. You and Nico worked very hard, brother.
We did very hard,
and you partied hard too.
Yeah. It's weird because in my tribe, I'm kind of like I'm kind of like the explorer, you know. Like my wife understands what I do, and that there's occasionally times where I won't be around, but you know, our tribe has decided, go explore. You might find some really beneficial, awesome things.
Yeah, and then you can come back, and everybody reaps the benefits of that.
Yeah,
and that's. I mean, I'm not saying by no means am I locked into, like, obviously, like, the need for like a nuclear family or things that. I don't think that that's necessary, but it's the same idea of like, why do we create mythology? We create mythology to make a structure that we know will work. So we've created the concept of a nuclear family to just create a structure that we know will work. Yeah. If a singular child is getting a balanced expression of masculine and feminine energy from good role models, it doesn't really matter what else is going on. They'll be okay.
I just love the way you said the balanced expression of masculine.
That's all it is. Right. That can come from two women. That can come from two men. That can come from 6 different people in a weird commune. It's just easy to do when it's and really, like, this, not to, like, that's a whole wormhole, but it's like this concept that's being thrown around of like a divine union or a divine partnership. It's like, it's just the idea of like a man really truly in love with a woman truly in love with a man. It's balances. There's a good balanced express. Like, the kids get like, oh, mom's important and dad's important. Got it. Men and women both beneficial. Yeah. Maybe even everything is equal, but right. It creates a whole healthy structure for us. But it's just simple.
We'll see what happens. I mean, that's kind of a new thing, and I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, yeah, that's gonna be fun. I mean, as far as like psychology in our community, like, dude, there's a lot of precipices that we're climbing that mountain, man, and we'll see what happens. And shit, when they're what's the benchmark, like 18 years old? I don't know.
I don't know, because
we'll see. I do feel like the babies, like, dude, Joe's baby girl, like, she's like a genius. I just had she's 2 months old. My wife and our daughter. Jesus, my wife and I had a daughter. She like holds her head up like immediately, like just fucking strong. I think these COVID babies, I don't know, man. I think they're gonna be they're gonna change the world, man.
There's something about the consciousness. It's not again, the reason that those kids, and there's no science that I know that would support this. I'm speaking out of how I see the world, out of my ass. The reason that these kids, because you're not the first kid. That's a whole string of, like, for some reason, babies that are 1 month or 2 month old right now are holding their heads up better than they've ever had in, like, recorded. Right. That's a whole thing.
She's rolling over at
serotonin.
2 months old.
Serotonin.
Bro.
She's got more serotonin in her than what babies have previously had at that same age.
She's smiling. She's laughing, dude. It's crazy.
We created a little pocket in our culture that wasn't sheer fucking chaos. It was actually a little bit of, like, chill and relax. And it was only on the individual level, right? Your life kind of chilled and quieted. And then a consciousness that was, like, a little higher than average was able to come in with a little bit better of a functioning neural chemistry that created more of the natural chemicals that we need. So they're able to fucking keep their structure up higher. It's literally, it comes back to these base physical, practical things.
That's nuts.
Get your nutrients so you can have better energy. That's it.
I mean, Hendrix, Joe, the first time I met Hendrix, it was like, how old is she? Jesus, like, she's literally talking. She's like 6 months old, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Running around, climbing up stairs, talking. It's freaking weird.
So crazy.
The kid's not even like 1.5, and she's already taking her shoes off and putting them on by herself and, like, showing up fully clothed. Like, what the hell? Like...
Yeah,
like,
wait till
like a boat.
Yeah, she's asking questions about, like, concepts. Where did you even learn about it?
I know.
And
what are
now
even
you
shoes?
want
Like,
me to
why
answer?
do we need shoes, man?
I was like playing with Gak as a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Well, the 90s were a real simple time. I loved it.
Oh,
It was
man,
great.
me too.
It's just tactile and colors. Remember what the old Nickelodeon building used to look like?
Yeah, dude.
P.O. Box something.
It was
Universal
all
Studios,
like
man.
color vomit. Yeah. Now it's like just a regular building. It's
Dude,
weird.
the 90s was my own personal renaissance.
Yeah, right?
That was awesome.
We needed, it was all of, like, it was just, there was a bunch of undiagnosed ADHD, so it was all just like, let's put colors and everything and, like, sounds
Seriously
everywhere.
I think
for 12 hours.
I think everything we're talking about right now is gonna culminate into a realization later. Where, like, historians are gonna look back at, like, the early 2000s. They're gonna be like, okay, so the trauma of the 9/11 events and all this stuff, but in reality, we're gonna look back and say, no, dude, like, Nickelodeon was just dope. Like, that's it. Like, that's why we're cool, because Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. We all imagined climbing up a plastic mountain and being, like, little
getting a piece of the rock off the aggro crag.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was
we
cool.
We lived
Shit,
in
we're going to Mo with the results, Mo.
Yeah.
We lived in a reality where, like, a comedy TV show, the intro was done by Coolio, and somehow he was involved with Gak, and, like, there was this show where, like, you have to guess what a kid did for fun.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Hosted by a legitimate Olympian.
What the fuck, dude?
What was that? Nobody brought that over. We all knew Summer Sanders.
Sanders, dude.
Hosted that show. She was a gold medalist swimmer.
Are you serious? Wait.
Yeah.
For real, though?
Yeah, she
had a gold medal.
Yeah, dude.
I'm like, I've never been more attracted to Summer Sanders. I always was. I still am.
No, she bought, I think it was Atlanta, I think, or something. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I will buy a property in Denver, Colorado, and I don't know where I was going with that joke, dude. Sorry. Anyway, dude, so we've talked about a spectrum, guys.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we have covered a lot of shit, but there's a lot of stuff that we got to have you back on, because
would love to.
I wrote down some notes that I want to, I'd love to go in detail with a couple of things, but for our audience, I mean, we like I was telling you over email, Joe, like we've got a great group of people we're just here having fun, trying to figure out the truth.
Sure.
And I know a lot of what you said tonight spoke to our audience. And dude, we're just along for the ride. So you are welcome back anytime.
Would
so
love to.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Shit. I mean, maybe we'll hit you up next month. Maybe we'll do this like hey, what's Joe up to this month?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
Heck yeah, man.
I'm trying myself to like put more out there and talk more and make sense of a lot more. So I wouldn't mind that. It's it's tough to consistently create. I have problems with being consistent about output, But
Yeah.
that's just the nature of life.
Yeah, well, you do it like every day. Joe and I have luxury of doing it like once a week. Still we're like, shit, what the fuck do we always find something to talk about though. Because of this community though, like because of our listeners, because of the awesome people that I mean, it's not just me and Joe, man. Like it started out as me and Joe, but it's way bigger. Like everybody is as an equal contributor. It's so fun, dude. So dude, you're welcome back anytime.
Well, great. Thanks, guys.
Heck yeah, man. Well, have a great night, Joe. It was great getting to talk to you, man. And absolutely, we're definitely going to do this again. So have
great, guys. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your evening, man.
Yeah, you too, guys.
All right, man.
Talk to you later, brother.
Peace.
Bye. I love it.
Love it. And if you guys are just listening, we will put the links in the description of the podcast episode for Joe Molloy's TikTok. I mean, dude, that's how I found the guy. And dude, I mean, the stuff that he was saying was so in line with what our journey this past. I mean, we started 2.5 years ago, but this spirituality stuff and like this like psychological stuff, like only recently, like a last year and a half, kind of breached into, and he spoke a lot to it. I think that became apparent pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like you get it now, like why I reached out to him.
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, it was awesome. That was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite guests so far.
For real, dude.
I say that after every freaking episode.
I know. Same.
I just love all of our guests.
I know. It's almost like anybody like if you're on some like super famous show, everybody reaches out to you.
Yeah.
But if you're on like we're small potatoes, dude. We're small peanuts, and you like it's a very specific audience. Like the people that do reach out to us, like we just hit it off, dude. It's pretty fucking cool.
I like it, dude. I like it a lot, man.
Hell,
yeah. Well,
hell yeah.
Heck yeah, guys. This was an awesome one. And don't forget to check us out, man. Like you said, if you don't live anywhere in Texas or locally, you can always check us out live. We're going to be doing a live event with Terry Lovelace. It's going to be this Saturday. We're going to be at the Black Sparrow. It's going to be a great time. I'm pretty excited about it. So we will be streaming it live. All you guys can come hang out, check in. We're going to be doing a Q&A. So if any of you guys have a question for Terry, put it up and we'll pull some questions. We're going to take some audience questions, and we'll also take some questions from the chat. So y'all come in and be a part of it, man. It's gonna be a real good evening. I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
As we're getting closer to the event, we're like trying to figure out like specifics. And I mean, we've never done anything live like this. Like we played music before, but not just you and me knowing about stuff and talking about microphones.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting night for sure.
It may be terrible, but it may be kind of fun.
It's gonna be awesome.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be awesome.
We'll stream it live. Hopefully you guys show up to live. We're gonna do questions too. So you guys, same as always, except we're not in our own rooms. We're in a fucking bar. That's the only difference.
Heck yeah.
Hell
Heck
yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'm calling it a night.
Let's do it, dude.
Hell yeah.
Hey, dude.
Hey,
I'll see you on Saturday, dude.
we'll see you on Saturday too, dude. Yeah. Hey, this has been another episode of UFO Garage. We'll talk to y'all Saturday.
Hey, we'll talk to you later.
And then again Thursday. So
Yep.
we will see y'all a lot this week. Love you guys, man. Y'all have a great evening. We'll talk to y'all later.
Goodbye.
Bye.